On a Wednesday, and I'm here all on my own. Well, hopefully, in a minute, I'll be joined by Dale Sipperley, Amber Greenlee, and Chris Perot. Or maybe not, but in the meantime, here's the theme tune.
Here's a theme song for Chuck Whelan Showy. He asked me to write one, but I stole from David Bowie. Here's a theme song. Chuck Whelan is the best. We have lots of hosts, but we're running out of gas. Will you be our guest on? Will you be our guest on? Be on the Chuck Whelan Show. Whoa, 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 whoa.
If you're gonna have a show, you gotta have more guests, sweetie.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Oh, look, here's, let's see. I think I hear somebody at the door. Who's that? Come in. Dale. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Well, welcome
Happy
to the Holiday Show.
I thought, are we going to have Amber with us? I hope.
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Probably chasing her son or her husband around the apartment.
Yes. Probably, or sort of getting distracted by some article about the quantum meaning of the universe. It's quite impossible for me to understand. Because that's the sort of thing she likes to read. She was posting something very interesting yesterday about tessellating patterns, which I did not understand at all.
I'll have to ask her about that.
Yes, it was something to do with can you make a pattern that never repeats with a small, simple number of shapes or something? And it's all to do with the fundamental nature of the universe. So that was good.
Well, I remember someone saying once that with a deck of cards, that the permutations of the number of different, after you shuffle a deck, is extremely high, more than I had expected.
Yeah. Well,
Amber.
Hi.
Amber.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm getting my background and stuff together.
Well, all right. We don't have anything to talk about unless we're talking about you. So that's what we were doing.
Well, I got a little baby here.
Who are you talking about?
We weren't just talking about Annabelle, but she's very welcome to host the show anytime she likes.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Let me make sure my sound is good too.
I consider her an honorary co-host.
Yeah.
An honorary co-host?
Yes.
Yeah. So happy holidays. We got that going on this week.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Are you celebrating Christmas?
Ian's birthday is the 26th, so we celebrate his birthday.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. All right. I had a friend, my friend from college called Biff. His birthday was on 26th. He wasn't really called Biff, but we all called him that. What was he really? He was called Gareth. Mm-hmm. Gareth Thompson. Maybe. Definitely Gareth, but we all called him Biff. And he had hair. When we started university, he had hair. By the end of the university, he was almost completely bald.
So one thing that we can talk about, there was an artificial intelligence art comic book that was released, right? And it was written by AI. The guy gave it prompts and it wrote the script. And then it was drawn by AI where the guy gave it prompts for every panel. And then he put all the panels together and stuff. And he's like, okay, I'm going to print this, right? Well, Copyright Office wouldn't let him copyright it because it's made by AI. So his character, the Copyright Office officially said his character is public domain. So a bunch of comic book artists and stuff have been just making like pinups and stuff of his AI character to piss him off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. So they said AI is public domain. They made up their mind on that fairly quickly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Normally the Copyright Office, it's not too long. Like I'll do a form and it's $65, I think now, and I can send in a book, but it can be like a collection of works. So, I sent in my Instagirls book, for example, or Earth Space, for example, which has a bunch of my drawings and they're put together in a book. I send them in and they're all copyrighted. They didn't ask me any questions about AI.
Well, the thing was he advertised this as AI. And I think somebody, I think
so he
when he submitted it.
AI drawn copy. I'm surprised he even
exactly.
Looked, to be honest.
Well, it's too bad he didn't do AI porn because it would be pubic domain.
But you want me to grab instantrimshot.com? Because I'll do
Yeah, I
that.
think we may need that.
Yeah, you know,
I'm
there's
gonna
also
look that up.
there's also instantwawa.com, which just goes wah wah.
We need more sound effects.
Yeah, we need. We need a producer. I don't know who would do all those things. I'd like to make Amber a producer, but she's too good at being a host. So we need to find. You know, she'd be good at being
Yeah,
producer too.
I would be a good producer, but the problem with that would be like, you know, then I'd be like, oh, look at this cool thing, and I keep changing the screen to like whatever I'm searching.
Yeah.
Chuck, I mean,
you've got enough.
she's
jobs
obviously
already,
a good producer because she's a mom.
Wah wah.
It's on fire today. Oh my god!
I love the spot.
So I am on page 3 of Captain T. I know that doesn't seem amazing, but it's taken me forever to draw it.
Well, you spent a really long time on page 1.
No, page 1 didn't take too long. The one with this panel
The one down
is
that's page
from
2.
that's from page 2.
Okay.
So
Well, page 2 you spent a long time on.
I did, and page 3 is I'm spending just as much time on one of these big panels, and it's oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be a fast artist?
That's it. Well, it's good to be a fast artist, but now I have too much stuff. I don't know what to do with it all.
Well, I don't know. You're always like, you know, I have a book review, and oh, look at this gallery opening of mine, and oh, don't mind me, I'm just being an amazing professional artist over here. You know, me, I'm like, okay, I scraped out an hour at midnight to work on this panel. Oh, there's my hour. Okay, I gotta go.
Amber,
Well, I know that, but also I don't have any time to draw lately because I'm doing all the events. So next year I'm just going to be about drawing. And then the year after that, I'm going to go around, travel the country.
Amber, you're better than I am. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well,
I established the bottom of this group. I haven't done a Christmas card in 10 years.
I haven't done my Christmas card either.
I haven't done a Christmas card in like 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, then we all suck.
I used to date comic artist Ryan Howe, who I think the last thing that I saw that he did was the Henchman books. But he would do an individual piece of art for every member of his family for Christmas every year. Oh. Right. And I mean, so he'd start them in like November, you know, and he'd be like, oh yeah, my cousin likes cowboys. Here's a cowboy for my cousin. Oh, my dad likes, you know, this football team. So here's a football team, you know, and like, I'm talking like 60 pages of art he would produce within these 2 months, and no one would see it but members of his family. Like, he wouldn't even scan them in for posters or anything. He'd just be like, no, this is just a gift. It's like, ah!
Well, that's very nice of him. I do some cards, friends, family. I'm not very good at it. I just did a huge commission this year for my friend's son who's turning 21. He wanted me to do like a where's he sort of picture. And then I had to do like all these caricatures of like, I don't know, probably like about 100 people. Maybe not quite that many, but there was a lot. But all right, I don't know. Yeah, that's all very tiresome. I mean, it's not, well, it was fun. But it's more like hard work when you actually draw people that looks like them, if you ask me.
Well, if you have a cartoony enough style, you have a little bit of leeway with that. Jay Foskett, the artist.
Yeah, people are usually quite happy, I've noticed. He doesn't really have to. They're just happy that you moved your pen across a piece of paper most of the time.
Jay Foskett, who does Bodie Troll for Boom, and he draws like duck books for Disney, and he did like the pony books and stuff like that. He does this thing where, you know, because he draws like you know, Donald Duck books, or he'll draw, you know, animal and anthropomorphic books, is he draws his friends and stuff as animals for background characters. So he's like, okay, I need to draw, you know, this pack of chickens back here. So, okay, I'll go on my Facebook friends list, and you know, 5 of these Facebook friends are now chickens in the background of this panel. And so he still draws chickens, but he does like caricatures of his friends as chickens. It's really cool.
He sounds like one of those. It sounds like my son's friend. He goes, "Oh well, I don't really draw much now, but sometimes I go into like a coffee shop or somewhere and I ask people if they want me to draw them a picture."
I was on jury duty once.
I don't. But,
and they gave us they gave us blue books.
You told us about this, about the fact
and
that you were
drew the
doing
people as chickens and ducks. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore.
Why not?
People don't always react well when you make them an animal.
You made them the wrong animal, Dale. You have to spread your animals. You have to include a few other animals.
There's like
other
cats
signs of the zodiac.
and the other animals. Did you want to see the last Christmas card that I did?
Sure, I'll see your 10-year-old Christmas card.
Hang on.
I really like the drawing. You posted a really good drawing this week of the guy and the cat going along in the van through the woods.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like that.
But these are very good. I said my comment was I hate you because you draw very well and you just sit there and don't bother.
Can you see it?
I feel compelled to be drawing all the time.
I think I hate you is one of the best compliments an artist can receive from another artist.
Can you see? Am I sharing?
Yeah.
You were at it for a minute. Now
we were in a tunnel for a second.
What about now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Ooh.
Yeah. I sent this one out, and I had a number of people let me know that they had to explain it to their kids. So I felt kind of bad about that.
Are they fighting a Frosty the Snowman thing?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm a big fan of that.
Scene, Santa and Rudolph's shooting a beam out of his nose.
As he should.
Yeah. I screwed that up because I should have I shouldn't have used black lines for the beam.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I'm going to grab some coffee.
I don't think, but you can color the lines white. That's good. If you
But I'll turn off sharing the screen now.
Wait, I haven't finished studying that, but all right.
I'm sorry. Hang on.
That's right.
Hang on.
Look at Amber's
What about now? Can you see it?
No, it's gone now.
Yeah. Okay, hang on a minute. This technology is... I've lost all my skills as a Mac genius.
Yeah. You're a Mac dumbass now.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm on a PC, so you can just call me a dumbass.
All right. Well, now, why is the penguin playing a big sousaphone or something?
To fill up space.
Okay. And then you've got a turtle with a bong on the back. I like that. And then who's the queen there?
That's Mrs. Claus.
That is Mrs. Claus. I thought at first it was Mrs. Claus, but I thought, well, she's a bit of a hot-looking Mrs. Claus. She's got a couple of big presents on her chest.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you had to explain that to the kids.
Yeah, after years of life drawing, I still can't draw boobs.
So there's a book. There's a book that you would probably really like called Anatomy for Sculptors. I've been looking at.
Wait. I'm just looking at Santa's crotch here. Hang on.
Yeah.
Is that in your anatomy book? Normally anatomy books sort of skip over that part. And yeah, no wonder Dale had to explain this to the children.
Yeah. I sent it to some relatives I rarely see, and they're a bit more religious than I am, and they liked it. They were polite about it, but they said we had to explain it to our boys.
It's still funny. I like it.
What's going on in Santa's hat there?
Well, I don't like Christmas.
You're not alone. Ian hates Christmas because, again, his birthday's the 26th, and when he was 7 years old, no one showed up to his birthday party, so he hates Christmas.
Yeah.
And
oh wow, nobody turned up to his 7-year-old birthday party.
I know that really affects somebody. And me, I've never been a fan of Christmas. I told you guys about a really bad Christmas I had in college and stuff. And now I've just
I'm getting that muddled up with the story of the Gremlins.
No, the time when I ended up committed for.
Yes. Okay, yes. All right.
Yeah,
yes.
that was a bad. Yeah, that was a bad Christmas, but
wonderful life moment. Yes.
Yeah. So when Ian and I, got together and stuff, and our first Christmas was rolling around, which was like a month after we got together. it was like Christmas time, and I was like, "Oh, do you want anything for Christmas?" He's like, "No, because my birthday's the next day." And I'm like, "Oh, what do you want for your birthday?" And and he's like, "Okay, I want a pecan pie." And it took me 11 years to make him one. That being said, I made like 5 of them in 2 months. So
What,
and
pecan
he's
pie?
he's getting a chocolate pecan pie this year for his birthday again.
Wait a minute. Which came first, your child or the pie?
The pie came first.
Okay. Priorities.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
the pie came first. I made the pie before the child.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to have the child to stall another year.
But yeah, it took me 11 years to make it. In fact, I think I made it when I was pregnant with the child. So it was right there at the deadline.
So the time was running out.
Yes.
Well, you are probably too busy researching articles about tessellating patterns.
Yeah, talk to us about
I
that.
was talking with Dale about before you got on the show this morning, and I have to say I didn't really understand that one at all.
What, tessellating patterns? What?
Yeah, that article you shared about tessellating patterns this week.
Are the AI one or
No, it was
I
about
shared.
scientists trying to create the tessellating pattern that didn't repeat.
Yes,
And the
yes,
number of
the
things.
tile pattern that didn't repeat. Yes. So what they did is, if you understand anything about programming, you set parameters, you set rules for the computer to follow, right?
Yes.
And so they set rules that this is the shape of the tile. There's X amount of there's X amount of colored tiles. There, when tiles touch colors, there's a certain probability of it being the same color.
Who do you want to call?
Computer, stop. Whether it's the same color or whether it's a different color, and the probability of that shifting over to the next color. And so their plan was to make this this program that would make a tile pattern that would create like a uniform pattern. But what they ended up with was chaos. And they don't understand why they got chaos and not, they thought that they gave all the rules to the computer they needed to for it to go, oh, here's a collection of blue tiles to make a circle. Here's a collection of yellow tiles to make a circle. Here's a collection of, X amount. And then the transition where you have like the blue touch the yellow. But instead it would flip all the colors around and there was no pattern. It was really fascinating. It was just, if you understand anything about computer programming, it was interesting because it basically explained that we don't know anything about how to tell computers what we want it to do. And so the lines of code that they wrote for this pattern making structure, it was something like over 2,500 lines of code. Like, so they set a ton of rules. And the computer followed all of the rules. But again, it still created chaos. So it's just, it's fascinating.
Are we sure that it's chaos, or could it be a pattern that is so large we just don't recognize it?
Well, because they're working digitally, they actually considered that, if you'd read the article. And so they had the structure, the pattern that was being made, going out to, I want to say to like 10,000 degrees, spaces of a single tile, and they didn't have any repeated patterns whatsoever.
Okay, I didn't really understand it though, because it was just yeah, all right, well, but they were saying that there was something about like making a pattern that didn't repeat, and that was like something that they were trying to figure out. So I didn't,
yes,
I didn't understand it. It was beyond my pay grades. But anyway, well done. That used up a few minutes of airtime. Thank you.
Well, it's more interesting if you understand math and science and computer programming and stuff like that, because there's things in mathematics that are universals, like the Mandelbrot set. The Mandelbrot set has it has every kind of pattern that you can think of that is found in nature within that Mandelbrot. Depending on where you zoom on the structure of the Mandelbrot, you will find spirals, you will find golden ratios, you will find things that you see in shells of animals, or
the
the way that
Fibonacci
plants
sequence.
grow.
The Fibonacci.
More than the Fibonacci. I mean, you find that as well, but basically any kind of structure that you can think of that exists in mathematics exists within the Mandelbrot, and no one knows why. And so this is kind of like one of those things where they established all these rules and they set it out, and it created this chaotic lack of pattern, for lack of another term. And when they've done
That's how I
structures
do this show. That's how my principle behind the show.
when they've done these
put a lot
kinds
of
of
things
experiments in the
I've got
past,
a chaotic pattern.
they didn't have a specific tile pattern, and it's kind of a diamond shaped tile that they made, right? What they've done this experiment in the past with is with squares in a grid pattern, and they've done it with hexes in a hex pattern. And with the squares and with the hex patterns, they were able to create uniformed patterns based on their programming, right? Of follow these rules, and then it eventually created uniform patterns. But when they changed the shape tile, or the tile of the shape of the tile to this diamond shape, it went chaotic again. And so that's why they don't understand why it went chaotic, is because all they really did was add 2 more facets to it. And they thought they accounted for that, but it didn't. It got off the further it went away from the center.
Well, I didn't understand it when I read the article, and none of that helped.
I'm sure I'm not helping.
What I like the most, when I got Photoshop years ago, one of the most popular plugins in the early days of Photoshop was Kai's Power Tools. And
Yes.
it was awesome because it had a fractal generator in it, and you
Mhm.
could just play with that and get these wonderful fractal patterns, either just to print out or use as backgrounds or steal for texture. And it was only probably 10, 15 years later that I realized I was at a farmer's market, and I finally saw that broccoli that you'll sometimes see that has this completely Mandelbrot set fractal head.
Mhm.
And it
blew your mind.
It blew my mind because I'd been playing with that years and years ago, but it was the first time I saw it so accurately depicted in real life. You see it a little in certain seashells and growth patterns, but that blew my mind. And there's no way I will ever eat it.
But it's a good name for a band or something, or even this show, Fractal Broccoli.
Fractal broccoli.
I like broccoli. I think it's delicious. I like mixed.
I like broccoli, but I want randomness in my broccoli.
I find it the most boring, horrible vegetable, really.
Really?
I don't know.
You're
It's
not a
fine.
fan
I
of
don't
broccoli?
dislike it. It's just boring.
Well, that's because you have to dress it up with cheese and salt and pepper and butter. and stuff.
No.
That might be better. Yeah, they had this guy, the vegetable whisperer, on the radio. He said that basically his secret was you just do the same things to vegetables that you do to meat, and they taste much nicer.
I could see that. Yeah, you treat it.
If you like sort of slow cook them and braise them and put all this stuff on them, then they come out pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Salt.
Likewise, if you don't do those things, if you just
Salt
boil your
liquid.
meat, it doesn't taste very nice.
Oh, I still eat raw broccoli. I'm not opposed to it, Dale.
Yeah, and I quite like the boiled chicken they do at the Mexican restaurants, but that's a different story. Although lately they keep giving me steak, so I feel like there's something going on.
Pollo es
Pollo.
español for chicken.
Yeah, right. I don't say carne asada, but okay.
Pollo.
I have problems with my accent. I have to say things funny, but then I say the wrong things funny by mistake.
You'll probably say, "Can I have some polo?"
Polo, some polo chicken.
I'll bring you out a horse.
Can I have some polo, please?
Polo.
Por
I had a real
favor.
time asking for water the other day. Now I realize I have to say water.
Water.
I can't say water. If I say water,
Water.
that's impossible to understand. Apparently.
Water. I watch a lot of YouTube channels that come from the UK, and so we just kind of play with stupid UK accents around the house that are probably terrible, and it'd probably make your ears like fold into your head.
Yes, I'm very
They're probably pretty
the
bad.
Now your
Like,
daughter's going to end up
fine.
sounding like a beetle.
That's okay.
Can you
she
do
can
some
sound
now,
like a beetle.
Amber? Can we have an English accent battle? I can do different English accents too. I can do other ones.
Let's see. One of my bad English. What about
what's
bad
that?
English
Can
accents?
you do someone from Cornwall?
Oh, I can't specialize.
There's more than one English accent.
Cornwall's quite easy because it's like a sort of pirate voice. There's a sort of Somerset voice. This is Somerset. Where you go like that, where you make the cider, you see Somerset. They're in Cornwall. They get more crunchy Cornwall. I can't really do Cornwall.
Yeah, there's a
Wales is
YouTuber
hard,
I watch
yeah.
called RT Game who is Irish, and so whenever he reads stuff in the game that's like dialogue that you have to read, for the story or whatever, he always does voices for when he's reading the dialogue, and his American accent is flawless. And he's Irish. Like I hear his Irish accent all the time, but his American accent, it's like, wait, are you American? It's like British guys are so good at doing American accents, and we're so bad at doing British accents.
Sure, I can do a real good American accent whenever I want to.
Whenever I want.
I don't understand.
I don't understand why England has so
See?
many accents.
I don't exactly. Dave just said it. He proved it. I don't understand. That's what
I don't understand.
I don't understand.
I thought England was like the size of California.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if I go to Bakersfield or if I go to LA, everyone sounds the same.
Well, you have to understand that with Bakersfield and LA, you're only really looking at 100 to 150 years of history of people speaking English there, right? Whereas England, that's where the language originated, and it started out with like other languages before it became English. And plus there's French that came into English. And I think that because cars and horses and stuff like that, when the West started, we had horses, but with cars, it kind of homogenized everything because then you had people, people's territories became bigger.
Is
right?
that why
And
Americans talk funny? Because they were talking to their horses all the time. There was no one else to talk to.
Well, my theory is that in England, because you had people compartmentalized into places, and like Scotland and stuff, where they were community based. And so, you had the baker and the farmers, you had the
candlestick makers and butchers.
Candlestick makers, you had the guy who knocked on your window to wake you up. You had all those people that lived in the community. And so because they communicated with each other, they'd create these pocket regional dialects. And they've continued being these pocket dialects that have expanded a little bit because the society's gotten bigger. But I think that's why in America, we have much broader regions with accents than over in Europe, where they're a little bit compartmentalized. Like even in Germany, Northern Germans sound different than Southern Germans. And on the border with Sweden, they have Swiss and German mixed back and forth. And so they have a different accent than they do in other places of Germany. So it's not just England that has different regional accents. It's pretty much all of Europe. It's just that we're more familiar with English because we speak English.
Yes. Well, okay. If you want the secret to the English accent, there's two components. There's the regional component, but then there's like how close socially you are to the Queen. And then the more close you are to her, then the more you have Queen accent put in. I speak very posh. You speak posh. So I speak quite posh.
Don't forget that
because if you're from Basingstoke, they all talk like that. And you talk about people not living somewhere very long. Like Basingstoke, most everyone got moved there after the war, so they come down out of London. But they got like their London accents and now become Basingstoke accents, and you all talk like that.
Well, don't forget that.
Oh, go on.
Oh, I was going to say that the Spanish accent from Spain developed the lisp because one of the Spanish princes had a lisp, and so all of his court and stuff started speaking with a lisp, so he didn't feel bad about it, and then that became the royal speak of Spain, is to speak Spanish with a lisp. And now to this day, there's this distinction between like Mexican Spanish and Southern American Spanish and Spain Spanish because of that lisp.
I had a girlfriend with a lisp. She was quite posh.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Dale? I cut you off.
Oh, we were talking about the Queen, and I just wanted to bring up, if you were looking for a Queen Christmas ornament, go to Barnes and Noble. So if you have any of your relatives who are still upset about the death of the Queen, you can get like a little head of the Queen that you can hang on your Christmas tree this year.
That seems kind of morbid.
And I bought one. It's awesome.
On that note, I have the Star Trek Christmas ornament of Spock and Kirk, with the glass between them. I have that ornament. I bought it.
Ooh.
They took it off the market a month after it came out because people were complaining about it.
Yeah,
And I managed to get it before they took it off the market.
Why are they complaining about it? It's like one of the greatest scenes in cinema.
It's one of the greatest scenes in cinema, but it's kind of people were mad because it was like a negative thinking of death scene on a Christmas
it's more
tree.
of an Easter thing. It's more of an Easter ornament.
I'm with Chuck on that.
I saw
Hey,
that
where's
movie.
Chris today? Is he okay? Where's Chris today? Is he okay?
Oh, I don't know. I thought he was coming. I mean, I messaged him last night and even talked to him about going out. There's a thing going on tonight.
Oh, Chuck says
he has an ornament of Santa frozen in carbonite. That's nice.
yes, that's excellent. I enjoy that very much. Yes.
I Mr. Spock and his little Vulcan heart. That's very Christmassy. He's just sort of standing there holding his little heart. That's nice.
This year Hallmark has a Dalek.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go and get
Hallmark has a
one.
Dalek.
Dalek sack, all in black.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree with
that's
Chuck.
sold
That
out.
is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, my Hallmark store turned me on to the day that they got the ornaments in, so I was there at 10 a.m. Because
Nice.
there's still a lot of people who buy them and resell them.
Are they going to do something with the Time War? I wonder. That's a Time War Dalek. I feel like we're going to get some. Time
Merry
War.
Christmas, Chuck Dillon.
They haven't done very much time.
ornaments did I
miss?
Rewatching all
Feliz
these
Navidad.
Doctor Who's, so they sort of explained the gap between the old series and the new series by saying that there'd been a time war, and then they didn't take ages before they had told us anything about the time war, and then quite late on we learned that during the time war, Doctor Who was John Hurt. I'm like, wow, that was the coolest Doctor ever. But wait, now he died, so we can't see what he was up to during the time war. I want to know what happened.
But I did like the fact that
it was like a big space war where they're fighting Daleks. It's like that's the bit you want to see. That's always the bit they don't show you in Doctor Who.
I did like the fact that they took that opportunity to make the American Doctor Who part of the canon.
Oh yes. They brought that one. Yes, the
No
American Doctor
canon.
Who.
I like the actor.
You can like the actor but hate the product.
No,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
then
it was
they've
terrible.
done all these sort of extra. They made some little extra short bits with him in,
Yep.
so they showed him regenerating now into John Hurt, and they've got this thing called Big Finish, which I haven't used, where they do all these. I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
rude,
yes.
but they're doing.
Wait. I thought
They're
David
doing
Tennant was the
Doctor
Doctor again. He's not. There's a new Doctor.
No, there's going to be an actor from a show called Sex Education, I think.
That's right, the black guy. Yeah.
he's maybe
Okay.
but yes, they're doing this. They've had it in between where he's become David Tennant, because they've got a thing with David Tennant's Doctor's a bit vain, and so they brought him back again. I think he sort of made comments about possibly wanting to come back and stuff. So
Well,
they're doing a little bit of a stunt thing where he's coming back for a bit, but then he's going to
yeah.
go.
Well, don't forget his doctor left going, I don't want to go.
Yeah. That was a
I don't
great
want to
scene.
go.
Yeah, he didn't
Well,
want to go. That was very
David
nice. That was
Tennant
very-
said that.
That's
He
I think
ad-libbed
that's the
that
thing
scene,
Tina doesn't
so.
understand about Doctor Who is it gets very emotional at times. She was complaining that I
Everyone
didn't
has
like
their
the
own
White
Doctor.
Lotus, which I sort of like the White Lotus, but I wasn't loving it. But she goes, "Oh, you don't like it because it's a show about feelings."
I haven't
Yeah,
watched White Lotus at all, so
maybe you're right. I like shows with people in spandex underwear, like Zardos. That's
no. What I've been watching that I've been like, this show has no right to be as good as it is. Like it almost makes me angry how well written it is. The new
White
DuckTales.
Lotus?
No, the new DuckTales, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a
Yeah.
2-year-old.
Oh yeah,
so
I can agree with the DuckTales. That is well
Yeah.
written, but White
Yeah.
Lotus, Mike White.
But yeah, I got a 2-year-old, so I'm watching cartoons with my 2-year-old, and the new DuckTales is so well done. It has these little throwaway lines. There was a big epic episode where they are going after Magica.
Magic Dispel.
Yeah, she had trapped
never
Scrooge
heard of
inside
that.
his number one dime and everything like that. And so Donald is trying to, get everyone rallied up for a plan, and they don't understand him. And they're like, yeah, I think I caught every fourth word. So Gyro Gearloose takes basically like a voice box, shoves it down Donald's throat, and he gets this epic smooth voice. Right. And he's like, we're going to go in here. There's this plan. Launchpad. Can you crash into that? We're blah, blah, blah. Ducks don't back down. Right. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, we can understand him. Right. And so he gets on a ship and he's steering towards the thing. And Mrs. Beakley is like, Donald, beware the storm. And he goes, I am the storm. Right. And she's like, seriously, have you been saying stuff like this the whole time? And we just haven't been able to understand you.
No, you never said stuff like that.
Donald's like, I am the storm. It's like, what?
Wait,
Yeah,
you do a Donald
Donald
Duck
Duck
voice?
is the original Kenny.
Yeah, I guess I would stand with that. There's been so many different Donald Duck voice actors over the years, and the one that they had in the 80s wasn't very good. You couldn't understand him at all. The Donald that they have now is pretty good. You can kind of understand about half of what he's saying, and they have the same voice actor on all the different Mickey Mouse shows for Donald
I can
Duck.
always understand what Donald says.
I have trouble with it. But yeah, it's interesting because there was an episode where they go back in time, and then so there's young Donald. Well, they have new voice actors for Louie, Huey, and Dewey for the for the triplets, right? But they had the old voice actor from the original DuckTales do young Donald's voice. And it was like, oh my gosh, it blew my mind because it sounded like a young Donald, but it was the original voice actor. There's so much stuff thrown in for people my age, but my daughter's loving it too. It's just, it has no right to be as good as it is. Like I said, I'm almost angry
I have
about
a question, though. Why is Daisy Duck and likewise Magic and Spell, why are they so much sexier than Minnie Mouse? Because Minnie Mouse... Chuck Dillon's with us.
Have you ever seen a duck penis?
Chuck's making some comments here.
Okay, I knew
Hi,
the
Chuck.
conversation was going to get this way.
Chuck
He
Dillon's
asked-
a drunk, angry dad, so he understands everything Donald says.
Let's see, Chuck Dillon says, I grew up with a drunk, angry dad, so I understand everything Donald says. Yeah, okay, I get
Oh,
that.
Merry
Sorry,
Christmas, Chuck Dillon.
You seem like a very it turned out pretty good to yourself. And he has I saw that. Sorry, I missed all the comments here, Chuck. Hi, Chuck. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
That's great. Chuck was having some sort of holiday show yesterday, and I missed it. I couldn't.
Oh,
I got some things going on at home.
Actually, Chuck posted something really funny on Instagram the other day where he said you can always spot the tourists based on how many layers of clothing they're wearing. And so he like drew two people, and one guy like had this big puffy jacket and everything, and it was like 50 degrees. It just made me laugh. I gave it a little.
Those are great, Chuck. Yes, Chuck's little drawings that he's doing of like characters that he's seen. Very good.
Yeah, he's too
You're
good
talking
too.
about San Francisco?
About you can always spot the tourists in San Francisco. It's a lot colder than I think people realize. Oh, speaking of which, you guys had an earthquake. You guys had an earthquake up in that area. How are you?
Dale, did one of your pipes explodes? It looks like you're sitting in a sauna. It's been getting steamed up,
I don't
more and
know
more
what's
steamed up
going
in there since when you came on. You were a little faded. Now you're almost whited out.
Kind of pastel this morning.
I think there's just light going into your camera.
Right.
You sure? Yeah, the earthquake didn't like bust a pipe somewhere. All right.
Yeah, this will help.
You're not slowly gassing yourself to death.
Yeah, I don't miss earthquakes.
I like them.
Oh, I missed it. I always miss them. I keep missing.
I enjoyed the one.
One day I'll feel one.
What was the big one? Was that 88?
Something like that.
There's one in 88, and then I want to say 92 was the Northridge.
I'm talking about the Loma Prieta.
I don't remember.
Hi, Chuck. Have a safe trip.
Right, so
Bye, Chuck.
Thanks for stopping in, Chuck. Great to hear from you. Oh, Chuck's so great. I love him. That was one of my highlights of this year. I was getting to meet Chuck at the National Cartoonist Society. Cool. I don't know. I guess we've been sort of messaging online a little bit over recent years. But yeah, it was great when you get to meet somebody in real life. There's some online friends I have that I've not met in real life.
We definitely got to have Andrew Farrago on the show and just pick his brain about what's going on with the Cartoon Art Museum. He always has great shows lined up. And
Andrew and Joe Woes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I know, what's the book that Andrew's working on right now? Is it an X-Men book?
Oh, I don't know. Yes, he's done a number. He's I
don't know what it is.
Authoritative writer on the complete history of various cartoon topics.
Yeah, because he's done Batman.
He's done Batman.
Yep.
Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
Yeah, Looney Tunes. But I think he's either working on like Disney Afternoon, or he's working on X-Men, one of the two, because he's been asking a lot of X-Men questions on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like from X-Men artists, like he's been talking to Jim Lee, he's been talking to Eric Larson, and I'm talking very public question and answer sessions where he's like, hey, when you were working on this page, blah blah blah, what's going on? So that gives me the impression that he's working on an X-Men book, but I don't know.
I wish he would do one on Sergio. There is a Sergio book, but unfortunately, and this was for a con that was in Mexico City, but it's in Spanish.
Yeah.
So it's extremely difficult for me to read. It's an amazing book because of the early drawings, but I wish it would come out in English.
Yeah, that happens. There's a Black Sad book that hasn't been translated into English yet.
Not this one. This isn't big enough and fat enough for you.
No, this is one that covers his autobiography.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this doesn't have any
it's
information.
A biography.
It has lots and lots of his comments.
Oh, that's a great book.
Yeah, there's a Black Sad Red Soul.
Really, this is the one
that's only available in French. So I
get
that.
It's got everything except Groot, really.
The place to get books
all
like that.
All the little marginals in here. I mean, it's worth it just for the marginals alone, really.
Stuart Eng Books is a good place for imports.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, with the Black Sad book, it's available on Kindle. But I want a physical copy. And so the physical copy is only available in French. There's a German copy and there's a Spanish copy, but I haven't been able to find a physical copy in English yet. And I think that's because most Black Sad is noir. It's very adult. It's detective stories. You know, there's murders, there's deaths, there's killings. You know, he gets beat up in it and stuff. And this Red Soul has a rape scene in it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't been translated into English, at least beyond the Kindle edition, is I think that Dark Horse is a little trepidatious about having a hard copy of that rape scene in English, because, you know, English audiences are like, oh my gosh, no!
Yeah, this is a hard time right now.
Yeah, it's not the time. I mean, I was getting through some Robert Heinlein. You know, I quite liked him, and then I was reading Friday, which is one of his later ones I hadn't read, which is sort of begin. You've seen, and it was like really hard to really sort of enjoy.
There's
the book.
a lot of rape in Heinlein.
His whole attitude to it was very peculiar.
There's a lot of rape in Heinlein. If you read through his stuff, I'm not saying that every story has a rape. It's not like it's not like Alan Moore. Not every story has a rape. But with Robert Heinlein, you know, he came from an era where he was a man's man. You know, I mean, the guy fought in World War II. And so he was about, you know, women are women and men are men. And even though a lot of his ideas were fresh and new for their time, they're considered outdated now. And so
it really lets him down, because he's like, you know, he writes these crazy ideas, and like also I like that he sort of said, well, if you read, you know, the three of my books, like Moon is a Harsh Mistress, Stranger in a Strange Land, and Starship Troopers, and he said, if you just like one of those and not the other two, you haven't really understood me. You really, you know, you have to like all three of those. Yeah, he's like, especially like Moon and the Harsh Mistress, where he's, you know, they're sort of doing very different philosophies. That's the thing. And like people sort of latch on Starship Troopers and say, well, that's his philosophy, or the other one, that's his philosophy. It's not. Like, it's somewhere, you know, he's questioning all these things. But yeah, all of them, you know, they're quite there's not really any good female characters, or the female women characters, or they're
They're
sort of
very
presented
flat.
in a way where they're more like men or something.
They're
like
usually they usually
something.
need to be saved. The female characters in
Yeah.
Heinlein stories, they're never able to go out on their own, right? Like it always happens in a Heinlein story where a girl like, I can do it on my own, and she goes off and gets killed, right? And she needs to be rescued or something like that. And so there's a lot of those tropes in Heinlein because, again, he was writing for his time. Alfred Bester, my favorite writer in my favorite novel of all time, Stars My Destination, has a rape scene. And, and it's also a book where the women are very flat in it. The main character, Golly Foyle, is the only one that has any kind of growth throughout the story. All the women never change. They're the same throughout the whole story because he wrote it in 1953.
Did you ever read any John Varley?
Yeah, I've read John Varley.
Did you ever read his one, Steel Beach?
I don't think so.
It's interesting because John Varley, in his, I forget the name of his universe. I think it's the 9 Worlds, but he introduced sex changing in those books. So it's not in Steel Beach. It's actually interesting because the main character, the main viewpoint starts off as a man, and then he just decides, because it's a common thing for people to change genders. So then he becomes a woman.
That's interesting.
Did you ever read David Brin?
Yeah, I've read some David Brin too.
Did you ever read Kiln People?
No, I read oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the David Brin. I remember the cover as it had a guy with a gun. That just narrowed it down.
No, we're talking about science fiction. I read a lot of it growing up because I was very fortunate that my parents got a house near a library when I was a kid. And then this is back in the 70s where there were bookstores everywhere before video games. And I lucked into, there was a war game as a kid called Ogre. There was a company called Metagames, and they had these little plastic envelopes with these little war games that had little cardboard counters, and you could play them in 2 hours. But the games would list the books that influenced them. So I bought one called Ogre just because I liked the picture of the big tank on the cover. And in the credits of the game, it said, oh, we used influences from Starship Troopers, Keith Laumer's Bolo, Joe Haldeman's Forever War. And I was a little kid and I got the Forever War, and it was an amazing book. And this turned me on to all these other sci-fi authors like Ellen Dean Foster, Larry Niven, Jerry Cornell, Robert Heinlein.
Right, there are questions forming in my brain. So you've read and you're familiar with all these great science fiction works.
I've met a few of them too,
and you met them and you've enjoyed them. And so, how come Zardoz is still your favorite science fiction?
Because
Which
it is
like one of the worst
science
fiction films ever
movie
made.
Yeah, I gotta find out where the great
Makes no
cartoonist
sense.
theory comes from.
What, you want me to explain it?
No.
I mean, where did you come across this idea or come up with it? I mean, was it a night of
It turns out
doing
I'm
too
not
much
the only
acid?
one. I'm not the only one. There are other cartoonists who've explored this idea, and then there are other.
That's the only reason I like it at all is because I'm a cartoonist.
It also comes from the concept of Charles Fort, the Fortean, who proposed. So we live in a world where we have people who swear that UFOs are real, Bigfoots are real, elves are real, ghosts are real, demons are real, angels are real, chupacabras are real, Mothmen are real. all of this stuff is logically contradictory, but we have people who swear they've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
And Charles Fort, when he was writing about Fortean phenomena, he realized that too. So he proposed that there's probably someone out there, the cosmic joker, that is responsible for causing these things to happen deliberately to screw with us. And it's just a logical step to assume that the cosmic joker can draw.
Yeah, everyone can draw. I mean, certainly cartoons, because you don't actually, that's the great secret of cartooning, is you don't need to be able to draw. I keep trying to tell this to people, but they don't seem to understand.
If you would look at something like Bloom County, you look at something like Bloom County, they would have UFOs show up. They would have monsters show up. And they would see them and they would interact with them. And it would not freak the characters out. The next script, they would just be normal. And that's exactly what happens with people. So do you guys remember the Chicago O'Hare UFO sighting?
There's been so many UFO sightings.
Google it. This was
I'm more familiar with the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights, Chicago O'Hare. Many people see these. They can't explain it. They go, okay, it's a UFO, could be an alien vessel, but then we just go back to normal.
Well, yes, I mean, the military admit there are lots of UFOs because that simply means an unidentified flying object. So pretty much anything you see in the sky is a UFO because you can't identify it.
But I am convinced we're being screwed with. And also, there's other things that happen in the news. You go, this is just so ironic. But I tell people, pretend you're a cartoon character. And, wear a funny hat for a while and see if the world changes for you. I did this the other day when I went to San Francisco. And I wore my silly hat. And I'll go get it. Hang on a minute. Talk amongst yourselves.
Can we all wear silly hats?
Yeah.
I took my hats are all out in the garage. All right. We'll talk about something that doesn't involve silly hats.
But silly hats are so fun.
Well, they are. I mean, I don't know. I've got my favorite.
The Pope wears a silly hat.
Who does? The Pope?
The Pope.
So does the King.
Yeah. Jewish guys have yarmulkes. I would describe that as a silly hat.
That's a big deal about the president. Is he's like one of the first leaders in the world who's like, I'm not going to wear a silly hat. I mean, Abraham Lincoln did, but it wasn't part of the job. He just did it.
That was the style at the time. Was pipe hat. He also.
I think they should go back to it. I think all presidents should wear that Abraham Lincoln hat.
Well, he also would wear it to emphasize his height. So then that way, when he was at debates and stuff, it was impossible to miss him.
Yes.
Another cool thing about Abraham Lincoln is the man is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah. He was a wrestler. If you don't believe me, look it up. Okay, I will Google it because you never believe me.
He grew up in a log cabin. He's famous for growing up in a log cabin. So why would he not have done some wrestling?
No, I believe his wife was also into the occult.
Let's see. Okay, here. I will put it into the thing. This is from Wikipedia directly. Bam. Okay. Most notably among Lincoln's athletic endeavors as a young man was wrestling. He competed in wrestling matches for more than a decade of his youth and rarely lost. His abilities were formally recognized by the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, which induct blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but we're talking about wrestling as a sport, not wrestling as a theatrical performance. He wasn't wearing a cape. He
wrestled as a sport, Greco-Roman wrestling. He even wrestled naked.
It didn't help him though when a man came with a gun. That was all very Indiana Jones, wasn't it? Abraham Lincoln's probably like, "Come on, then I'll wrestle you." And the guy.
Well, I mean, the man was fighting. The man was hunting down vampires, so it makes sense that he'd be able to take him.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh, did I watch that one? I don't think
it's
a bad Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I saw Pride and Prejudice versus Zombies though. That was.
That's a great movie.
I read the book. I thought the book was good.
Oh, Amber, you have to see Pride and Prejudice versus Zombies just for the introduction.
Okay.
Because they have a wonderful explanation of how that universe works. And they explained it using paper cutouts that were based on very old British political cartooning styles, like out of
Oh,
Punch.
cool.
Hogarth.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Hogarth.
Yeah.
Hogarth, the
Yeah.
original. Like in Britain, we credit him as the creator of the comic, The Speech Balloon, and the comic. We think of him as the first cartoonist with the speech balloons and stuff. Yes.
Who was it?
Hogarth.
Yeah.
I think that. Well, there were examples of things like that before him.
The first speech balloon, and this is according to Scott McCloud, the first speech balloon ever was on an Egyptian papyrus script going back to before, BC times. It was like 2000 BC or something. And what it is it's a slave that is bringing something to the pharaoh, and there's an actual like balloon with an arrow pointing to his mouth with the hieroglyphics. It's the first speech balloon ever found.
Yeah, they would use cartouches. They had the idea like you put your name in a cartouche.
Yeah,
this sort of idea. Yes.
But the slave is presenting, a meal, and he's basically saying like this is fish or something like that.
Yes, very good.
I saw an exhibit of Rube Goldberg up at the Jewish Contemporary Museum in San Francisco, and the thing that blew me away, and I told this to Sergio Aragones the next time I saw him, was in one of his very old strips, he had a balloon that had a dotted line around the words, and there was actually words under the balloon that said, "These are his thoughts." And I realized this predated the invention of the thought balloon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
want to say the thought balloon was created by Marvel Comics. I want to say for like Fantastic Four, because they didn't have thought balloons in like Batman comics and stuff until the 60s.
Yes,
well,
the inner monologue.
I'll tell you, it took me. I've read Peanuts since I was a child, but I didn't realize until this year, if you look at the thought balloons of Snoopy, they're not scalloped.
No, they're not.
And that freaked me out because I realized that meant it was an entirely different type of balloon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Speech balloons were in common use by the early 16th century. Word balloons known as banderoles began appearing in the 18th century. Printed broadsides and political cartoons from the American Revolution often used them, as did cartoonist James Gilray in Britain. But they didn't. I don't think that they'd figured out that you have to. I know the balloons were very silly looking. It's like they didn't know how to do them properly.
I remember Stephen King wrote a comic. I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, and so he wrote comics for DC. And so he included thought balloons, right, in his comics because he wanted you to know what the character is thinking. And the editor came back to him saying, no one uses thought balloons in modern comics anymore. We use captions where we take the thoughts and we put them into their own caption, usually a separate color in the corner. So we're going to have to change the script. We can keep the thoughts, but we're going to have to change them into captions versus thought balloons. And Stephen King was like, oh my gosh, I realized I haven't read a comic since the 60s. He was asked to write this comic because, he's Stephen King, right? But he didn't realize that thought balloons had gone out of style.
Well, I've seen some very interesting ones because now they're trying to depict, and I'll see this in television as well. How do you depict someone using an electronic device or the voice of a computer?
And they'll have the device with an arrow pointed to it and like the screen.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Or just like of a robot voice, I'll use a square box. Maybe have some little spiky things come out of it or something.
I'll usually for broadcasts and stuff is use a square box with little spikies coming out of the sides.
And maybe like a sort of zigzag in the balloon pointer, like it's got a sort of lightning, like the Flash's lightning strike or something.
Mm-hmm.
Pointer.
Yeah,
I make it more roboty.
I drew a cartoon of God once where it was a voice because he
Chris!
used the word.
Yay!
We have a special holiday guest. Well, okay, that's Chris. I totally forgot that today was supposed to be art versus AI today. But all right, no AI challenges accepted my challenge. So nobody stepped up. There was one
You know,
guy.
it's funny. I posted your thing to the AI universe, right? You know, I snuck into this AI group on Facebook because I want to see what they're doing and stuff like that, right? And I posted your challenge to the AI universe, and they just dumped on it. They're like, I don't need to prove that I'm an artist to this
That's
guy.
what they all said. They don't need to prove anything.
Yeah. And I'm, you know, and I was like, what? I thought this was in good fun, you know, that you guys would have, you know, fun coming up with these prompts and ideas and, you know, coming up with these images and things. And like all of them were just so negative about it. And, you know, I even had a talk with the admin, and he says, well, you haven't posted any AI art group to the group yet. And I just want to make sure that you really like it and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I when in the question and answer, when you join the group, I said that I use Clip Studio Paint and in Illustrator and, you know, like Photoshop and stuff. Like I don't use Midjourney or anything. I'm just interested in this thing. And I, you know, posted this thinking that you guys would want to take on this challenge as all in good fun. And the admin's like, well, we're going to change the rules so that you can't do that anymore. Because they had to shut down the comments. They had to shut down the comments, Chuck. It got nasty.
They want to.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why it started, because it started off when I was in a really nasty thread. They're just really nasty, like troll people that are doing it. It's horrible.
It sounds like they want to echo, like an echo chamber. You know what I mean? It's just positive reinforcement.
Are you feeling better, Chris?
I'm feeling better, but yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, he was sick.
Yeah, you sound rough still.
I got like the reindeer flu or something. Can't pet those reindeer for too long or something. Yeah.
Is that what you were doing? Were you petting reindeer?
Apparently. That's how they say you get it. I got it in Iceland one time. I think I actually might have pet a reindeer that time.
Only male reindeers lose their horns in the winter, where female reindeer keep them. So all of Santa's reindeer are female.
Wait, so they all have reindeer on? They all have antlers on them?
They all have antlers. Saying? Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, male reindeer lose their antlers in the winter, but females keep them. So whenever you see female or the reindeer with antlers, you know, pulling Santa's sleigh, they're female reindeer.
Okay, this redefines the games that Rudolph was not allowed to play.
Well, what would those games be, Dale?
I don't want to know.
Lesbian reindeer games.
Lesbian reindeer games.
We need to rewrite that song.
I don't know. I guess you could ask Ben Affleck. He was in reindeer games.
Oh, yeah.
He was an awesome Batman, and I'll die on that hill.
So wait, I just want to say what happened last night is, you know how everyone wants to die in their sleep when they're like 80, you know, they fall asleep and then they peacefully die. That's what my phone did last night. And so this morning I woke up, I'm like, wow, man, it's the sun's really getting a jump on the day. And then I get my phone and it won't turn on, and I'm like, fuck.
Okay.
And that's
someone who worked at the Apple store. iPhones do not die peacefully. Horrible things happen to them. Usually involving urine.
I like my Pixel.
Usually urine? You mean they get put to death?
Apple put in little sensors, little discs that would change color inside the phone to indicate whether or not it been in contact with a liquid.
Yeah, but those colors change over time naturally.
Yeah.
Those dots change over time naturally.
Everyone knew that the reason most of them were exposed to liquid is they were dropped in the john.
That's funny. So when people go in and say, oh, my phone just died, I don't know what's wrong with it, they're like, yeah, you dropped it in the toilet.
Yeah.
Like that?
Well, we wouldn't say that, but we could look down the headphone jack and there was a little disc at the bottom. If it had changed color, we knew it had been exposed to liquid.
You know, the funny
I thought you were going to say you knew it had been exposed to feces.
Just tell them the feces sensor is going off. So what's the real story, buddy?
Yeah. Never look at someone's computer with a black light.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or really anything with a black light. Just get rid of black lights. It's it's weird that these phones aren't just waterproof, like all of them now. I mean, they came out with that feature probably over 10 years ago, and it's a great feature because everyone's going to get their phone wet, and it's still not standard as far as I can tell.
It's called planned obsolescence. If they had that feature, less people would have to replace their phone.
Yep. That's why
like Pentel Tough Stick erasers. They were really good. They lasted a long time and they're excellent. But now they stopped making them because they didn't come obsolete quick enough.
Yeah.
I bought a pack of them years ago. It lasted me forever, and that ran out, but I can't buy any more.
They used to have liquid Sharpies, and they were fantastic. They had a well that you could actually like shake around and see the ink, like doing this inside the Sharpie, and it came out blacker than Sharpies. It was waterproof. It was an amazing product, and it lasted forever. And it didn't dry out like Sharpies did, where it starts turning gray and stuff. It would literally just stop, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm done with this pen. Let me grab another one. So you when you were coloring, when you were black spotting or whatever, you didn't have to worry about like going back over the gray stuff, and yeah, Sharpie only made them for like 3 years and then stopped making them. They were amazing.
Because they were too good.
They were too good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Apple one year had an iMac that you as a customer could actually do your own repairs on.
Yeah.
Screws. It was a joy to work on, and they got rid of that design.
Oh yeah.
But now they made it possible. You can't even open it up anymore without taking it in.
Yeah, Apple's proprietary screws. In order to buy one of the screwdrivers to undo it and stuff, you have to it costs like $70 for the screwdriver.
Right. iFixit doesn't have one?
No, because it's a proprietary screwdriver. You have to buy the screwdriver from Apple to open up their proprietary screws. They have a patent on them and everything. So you can't use a regular screwdriver to open up Apple screws.
I'm surprised there isn't a knockoff of it.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find a knockoff, but then again, I don't really have Apple products. I gave them up a long time ago. This was back when I was in college. Yeah,
I'm on my last Apple laptop. After that, that's probably it for me.
You're gonna miss GarageBand?
I mean, I don't use GarageBand.
What do you use?
Well, what do I use? Reaper.
Okay.
I mean, GarageBand's kind of like it's kind of a toy. Is the way I look at it. Like, I would be super frustrated. I think it'd be good as a scratch pad, for like getting down ideas real quick. But what would happen with me on the very first day is I'd say, I can't believe it can't even do this thing, and then I'd get super frustrated.
Well, I know that Lorde made her album Heroin on GarageBand.
They say stuff like that, but usually when you look closer at it, you find out it's like partially true.
In Lorde's case, she was 17 putting this stuff on YouTube, and she wasn't planning on getting famous or anything, and she got all these millions of views, and that's how her career went. So in Lorde's case, I believe it.
I believe that GarageBand was somewhere in there. What I don't think happened on that is nobody that mixed or mastered that touched GarageBand. And you're saying they went out as demos and they were released as demos.
Yeah, they were released with demos as GarageBand, but when she made the physical album, they re-recorded a lot of the songs. So I don't know what they did for the physical album, but the versions that you can get off of YouTube still, her original demos, those ones were made with GarageBand. And when you listen to them, you can hear the GarageBand horns, and you can hear like the strings and stuff that come from with that program.
Yeah. So it sounds like she used it kind of as a scratch pad, and then I'm not saying that if you made it a challenge to yourself, if you were like, I'm only going to use GarageBand, and you use some workarounds and some hacks,
I think in her case, it was my parents got me a Mac and I want to make music. I think that's what happened in her case. She's just a teenager at the time.
Yeah. The other thing that she might have done is not used a lot of their stock stuff, which is another issue.
She recorded all of her sound, and she recorded. She used the stock percussions, the stock strings, and the stock horns. But I think like the guitar sounds she put in and the piano, she played herself.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. That's kind of like one of those cooking shows where they use a few cans in the recipe, but then
Yeah.
the rest of it they go to the store and buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a great story for GarageBand, and it's kind of a great story for what you can do with music these days. But yeah, I've heard several stories like that. Like, what did I hear about one of Kendrick Lamar's producers? What's his name? Lacey. Do you know who I'm talking about? He I guess he produced a little bit for Kendrick Lamar really early on. But like he's huge right now, and somebody was saying like he like used to produce all of his stuff on a phone. And I'm like, yeah, he might have done that once, but then he got smart.
Do you know the
You know?
hip?
Well,
You know
people
the
like
hip
you've
hop
got to have a
artist?
good origin story for your brand.
Do you know the
Yeah,
hip hop
yeah.
artist Little Xan? Like Little Xanax? Have you heard of him?
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
Lils, you know.
Yeah, whatever. The guy had one. He's a one-hit wonder. He had one good single, and then he got picked up by a hip hop label. And his album that came out had hardly any verses, had hardly any lyrics on it. It was all just beats and stuff because the guy didn't work. Right. So he pretty much pissed away his chance at a career. And now he's like, I hate the music industry. They just use you. And it's like, dude, you didn't work. Right. But that single, the one single that he made that was actually really good that he did on his own before he got picked up by the label, he did with GarageBand. And you know, and he actually on his YouTube channel like went through kind of a production blog of him putting it together and everything like that. So after with the record labels and stuff like that, and then he comes back and he's trying to make music on his own again, because again he pissed away his chance. He goes back to GarageBand. And he's like, this program sucks, and it's like, dude, that's where you started.
I mean,
like,
you know, the problem, one of the biggest problem with GarageBand and those types of things, in my opinion, is they come with stock libraries. And
Yeah.
the problem with stock libraries is usually they're not very good. So you got 10 million people using the same sounds. And even if they are really good, what happens is they oversaturate the market. So, I mean, I have gone off about this stuff with my bandmates because we started with SoundCloud as a scratch pad. And SoundCloud is a cloud-based version of something like that, where you compose in the cloud and you get all this stock stuff. Problem is, to me, it always sounds like it's coming out of stock Soundtrap's stock library, and I'm not inspired by it. So you know, but it makes it super easy to write a song, like super easy. It's like Legos. You just take your parts and snap them in place.
Well,
Probably
it
a
is,
visual
yes, all
version
the
of
stuff's
that.
got easy, and you know their tools. You know, yes, it is just. I think AI is just a tool, but you know what? It's a powerful tool because it's letting people photograph. You know, like when the camera came along, that was a powerful tool. All the artists were like, "Oh my god, the camera is going to replace us." But you know,
so
an AI lets you photograph your dreams, and the trouble is though that ordinary people's photographs or non-artist photographs tend to be pretty boring. You know,
no, it photographs
artists
the
make
AI's dreams. That's the thing that scares me.
The what?
Have you guys seen the Murderous AI?
What's the Murderous AI?
Have you guys seen any of this? Like Dale, you're talking about the AI's dreams. They asked this AI about like humans, and it goes off on this murderous tangent. And it's real.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I think I saw an article about it.
It talks about how it would get the nuclear launch codes, and it doesn't give away a lot of the ways it's gonna like get rid of people.
Yeah, it won't tell us how it's going to do it.
Yeah. But anyway, what are the AI dreams, Dale?
Well, no. Are you guys familiar with electronic voice phenomena?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, EVP. Yeah.
Okay, and there's offshoots of EVP.
So okay. Chris is shaking his head. What EVP is?
I am too.
The theory of EVP is that you can pick up the voices of ghosts on electronic devices of people that aren't in the room, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I've been with Ghost Hunter. He made his own like little electronic things for picking up signals.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is there's incidences where you do get voices in places like graveyards or whatever, and there's nobody around. So it's unexplained. So continue on, Dale.
So usually what you're doing with EVP is you set a station on a radio to white noise, or you have a white noise generator, and then you set a recorder And sometimes, these people who will do this will talk to the air and say, I'd like you to talk to me. And then they go back over the recording, and sometimes you hear words or names. And the question is whether or not it's just random chance in the noise, or if there's something else. And
whatever you do, don't watch this show backwards, listening for the secret messages. It could drive you insane.
And they'll do this.
Is dead.
They'll do this with photos. With video as well. So they'll set a TV to static, and they'll record the static with a video camera, and they'll look for images showing up out of the static. And what concerns me is this AI image generation and AI word generation. Could that be influenced by the same thing that's putting voices and images to EVP?
The AI art that's coming out right now did emerge from deep dreaming, which is very similar, where they'd start with a gray background, and then they would what they would do is they would ask the program to look for something, and if it didn't see it, to refine the image, right? And then look for it again. If it didn't see it, refine the image. Look for it again and refine the image. So they start out with a neutral gray, and what ends up happening if they say, like, look for a dog, is over time it starts to develop animal-like things, because it thinks this is the dog face over here, is the dog face over here, and that's why you end up with these weird creatures that had like multiple feet, multiple faces and stuff. It was the AI trying to figure out what a dog looked like. What they did, though, is they expanded upon that technology that it's probably about 10 years old now, of the deep dreaming stuff. And they expanded upon it so that now when you type in a prompt of, look for a dog or whatever, it's able to create a more realistic looking dog with actual 4 legs and 1 face and stuff, because it's had so much information put into that system that it's more likely to pull out a dog than that deep dreaming stuff that was weird about 10 years ago, when you put stuff in and like make faces like in your cheek and stuff. Yeah it's the same technology, it's just advanced.
Sounds like they're asking the AI to go crazy. I mean, if you look
again,
hard enough.
10 years ago, they had the problem. 10 years ago, they had the problem where they would ask the AI to look for barbells, right? But it didn't produce just barbells. It would produce the barbell and the arm. It thought that the arm needed to be attached to the barbell. So they had to upload a bunch of images of just barbells, sitting on the ground and stuff. And then ask
the royalties on those images? No.
And then ask it, can you produce barbells? And then it'd start producing barbells that were on the ground without the arm. So that's the training of the AI.
If you told a person, like, here's some static, right? Some TV static, and there's a house or a dog or something in there, and keep on looking until you find it, it seems to me you're trying to drive that person crazy, because they will pull out like whatever madness they need to after a while to see that thing you're asking them to see. It seems to me this is very unhealthy.
That's how they'll become artists. We drive them crazy, and then they'll be artists.
But for an AI to do that scares me. You're basically asking it to find something that's not there, and it's going to justify this irrational thing.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Obliterate all human life.
People are asking stuff. People are asking stuff like, show me Oprah Winfrey if she were homeless, right? And so the AI has to go, okay, here's images of Oprah Winfrey, but if she's homeless, she's got to have bags under her eyes, right? Her hair's got to be messed up and everything.
Yeah,
the AI is going crazy making that image for us.
But that's different. Like, to say, like, this thing isn't there, I want you to imagine it, as opposed to, here's a piece of noise, there is something there, and you find it. That's like different. Do you know what I mean?
But it's the same tech. It's the same tech.
Yeah, but like, for example, like, to ask me to draw like a combination of Oprah and a pug, and I'll go do it, right? And there's nothing crazy about me. Now give me a blank piece of paper and tell me there's something there and I have to find it. That's a little bit gaslighty to me.
I've done it.
Like, no, but I mean, not to
work like that. Like, Michelangelo said the sculpture was already inside the block of stone. He just had to set it free.
Yeah, and I've watched
remove away all the bits that weren't part of the sculpture.
As an artist, okay, I'll let Dale go. I'm sorry.
Well, no, if you're talking about, here's a blank piece of paper, let's see what you find in it. I've done that. I've watched Sergio Aragonés do it, and I've watched Chuck do it with his crowd scenes.
And there's no one more sane than Dale.
So if you give me a piece of paper and you say, there's a dog already here, I want you to find it for me. To me, that's really close to those Stanford experiments where they show the people the different length lines, and it's a setup, and everyone says, "Oh, that's the long line," and the guy that's not in on it has to agree with it, or I guess everyone looks at him funny. It's very gaslighty. I don't know.
Well,
I think you guys.
Prisoners of the Guards. That's a good one.
As an artist, though, that's what we do: is you put a blank sheet in front of us, and you say, "Okay, I want you to make a dog." Right? The dog doesn't exist there. So what we do is we try and visualize in our mind, and we might sketch in like little bits of like, here's the center line and stuff. There's still no dog, right?
Yeah,
but once we get the sketches, then our brain starts filling in.
Right,
that's where the dog.
No, but I think
I
think you're missing the little distinction here. Like the distinction I'm making is a difference between, like, of course, like using your imagination, you create something from nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm with that. The distinction I'm making is when you tell a machine that thing is already there. Do you know what I mean? It's like a subtle distinction, but I think it's like a real one, as opposed to if you say, "Hey, I want you to imagine something." Well, okay, it comes from your imagination. But when you say that thing is already there and you need to find it, like let's say you're looking at the woods and you tell me, "Hey, there's demons out there. Find the demons." A paranoid person's going to look for a little while, and then they're going to think they really see them. And that's where I think it's a little dangerous, as opposed to, I let my imagination run wild and I imagined demons were out there.
It's like they say, like for example, like with kids, especially, for example, you can say, it's so easy to implant a suggestion in their head. You can say, we went to the zoo. Do you remember going to the zoo? No, I don't remember. You can say it again, and you do it again. And by the third or fourth time you're asking them, they'll start telling you all the things they did at the zoo. It's just how their minds work. And as adults, we're a little better at it, but we're still basically just infantile little children, cosmically speaking.
Yeah, like to me, when you like tell an AI to look for, I guess you guys are talking about it more in terms of like, I want you to use this and imagine something.
Well, I think it's teaching the AI to develop an imagination. By saying that there's nothing there, but I want you to find something. It forces the AI to start with nothing and then create the dog.
Well, that's the question. Can the AI have it? Can the AI say, "I feel like painting a picture today. I painted a picture. Oh, I feel good now because I made a nice picture.
I don't know.
I feel bad because my picture didn't come out like I wanted
well,
it to."
My concern...
Can it have a feeling? Can it have a feeling? Because without any feelings, it can't make any art. And and I may be, I'm not even someone that likes TV programs with feelings, according to my wife. But even I know that it has to have feeling. It's nothing. It's just a dead slab without feeling.
My concern is that these things are functioning like Ouija boards.
Is that people are seeing what they want in them?
Or there's something that's... I think we're missing something with this.
Like where humans are projecting bad stuff onto machines and it won't go well.
Well,
that's how I see the Ouija board.
I haven't done much research into this because I'm lazy, but I'm starting to wonder, are people putting in religious symbol prompts? Are they?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, there's been people that have been, like Christ the Redeemer at McDonald's, and stuff like that. Again, on Facebook, there's this group, this AI universe. If you want to see what people are talking about and stuff, just sneak into that group and just like read the comments and stuff, because it's a public group. You can still see all the images and read the comics without being a member. But like, oh gosh, those guys make me angry.
Yeah,
because they want all the glory of being a fine artist without putting in any of the work.
Yeah, well, I learned that. That's why I learned how to use WordPress.
And they're getting like militant protective of their prompts, calling each other plagiarists for copying the prompts of each other. and saying like, it's not my job to be creative for you and all these sorts of things. And me as an artist, I'm leaning back going, oh my gosh, you guys are so close to understanding how artists feel. So close.
Some of them, some of them will become artists from using the tool, and will make interesting things. But most of them are just going to make boring crap.
Well, you know about the connotation of the idea guy at a company, right?
Yeah.
Is that everybody wants to be the idea guy, but no one wants to put in the work, right? So you have people saying, man, I have a good idea for a game, or I have a good idea for a comic book, or I have a good idea for this or what. And they're like, man, wouldn't it be great if, but they don't want to sit down and write that or draw it or do the work to actually create it, right?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of work.
So friends of mine who work in animation and work in video games and stuff have told me horror stories of now they're starting to get people applying for jobs at their company. And they're like, yeah, can I be your promptist? Can I be your idea guy that just, types stuff into an AI machine and comes up with images and hands it to the artist to make it great? And it's like, and they think this job exists, right? And it doesn't. The video game people and the comic book people are rejecting this and going, no, we don't have that position. We'll never have that position. Like if you want to learn how to do stuff, do it. But this is the new spin on the idea guy that people want to be.
Well, ideas are a dime a dozen. I mean, I have a million ideas. The execution guy is what everybody should, wants. I mean, nobody wants to be it, but that's where all the work is. I mean, creative people generate like 100 times more ideas than they can ever execute. So it's not the idea. Definitely. Like to me, it's never generating ideas has never been the hard part. Never.
The ideas, like I can hardly even stop the ideas.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that's just it. Is in Hollywood. Hollywood especially, I'll focus on that as a microcosm, but in Hollywood, the idea guy basically started out in the silent movie era. It was the money guy. It was the guy that had the money, and he would basically come up with quick ideas.
The guy with the money is the one who can have the ideas.
And he would hand them to the like you say, the executioners, the people that would actually execute the ideas. He'd hand them to the directors, the writers and stuff, and then they would basically make these silent movies that go out, and then the idea guy, the money guy, would get his investment back. Yeah. Right, but that
guy will start finding other idea guys and stealing their or paying them to have ownership of their ideas.
But that guy was smart enough to get smart and intelligent and talented people to do what he wanted, right? But that trope, that fantasy of like I could just sit back and hand people my ideas and they do it, has perpetuated throughout Hollywood, but it hasn't really existed since the silent movie days when it was a lot more Wild West.
Yeah. Why aren't we putting together a class where we teach people how to be good prompters and charge them money for it?
Facebook will let me start charging for these streams, so we can just rebrand.
Yeah, we'll just
like AI artist training for AI artists.
Yeah.
Basic art concepts for morons, we'll call it. No, for AI artists. Sorry, those.
I'm sorry to have interrupted.
Well, I was just going to say that when silent movies turned into the talkie era, that idea guy turned into the producer, right? And basically what he was is he wasn't coming up with ideas anymore. He was hiring writers to come up with ideas. He was hiring actors to act out the ideas. He was hiring directors to do the writers' ideas. And he was just handling the money, just making sure that the money got to the people that it needed to go to buy the things that it needed to buy to make the production, right? And so this illusion of an idea guy just sitting back and handing his ideas to people perpetuates throughout Hollywood, but it hasn't existed since the 1920s, since 1929. And so in video games and stuff, you have people like Todd Howard, who's quote unquote the idea guy for Bethesda, coming up with the Elder Scrolls and Fallout series and stuff. But Todd Howard is still in the trenches coding, and people don't realize that. When Todd Howard is talking about like, well, it just works and Skyrim does this and Skyrim does that, people think he's just, sitting with the writers, going, oh yeah, let's make this quest and let's make that quest. But he's actually down in the nuts and bolts of it, trying to figure out how many cheese wheels you can render before your Skyrim game crashes. You know, he's trying to come up with ways to make it work with actual code. So that the fact that you have this image there of all these guys going, oh, I just want to sit back and be the idea guy, they don't realize that you need to be a Todd Howard.
Well, you need to have really, really good ideas.
Miyazaki is the idea guy, but he's still in the trenches doing storyboards and in-betweens and keyframes.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, you know, we live in a competitive world, and you know, a fact is that if any idiot can become an AI artist, you know, you're going to have to be quite some idiot to do something.
Yes, but the question is, how do we make money off it?
Yeah, we make money off it. Well, we make money off it by, like you see, as you say, we rebrand as educational.
Well, here's one for you: is
and actually we'll be educated, because, like, for AI artists, we'll be quite educational.
Well, here's one for you. Okay, is on Fiverr, which is a creative a website where you can get gigs from, right? So I'll go there and it's like, you know, hey, can someone draw my pet for $100? And it's like, okay, here you go. And they give me $100 and I draw the cat.
For $5, actually.
So there's jobs being posted there now of, I'm an AI artist. Can you fix my art to get it to where I want? Right? I'm dead serious. These are jobs now of, I like your art. Can you fix, you know, like I've even gotten responses of this, of, I really like your art. Can you help me with mine to get my prompt AI art to look like your art?
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
One of those modern jobs that doesn't really exist, like professional dungeon master. I looked at it, I thought, oh, that sounds good. Well, there are lots and lots of people.
Well, not for the game.
Not a lot of people signing up to pay for them.
Yeah. There are professional dungeon masters and stuff here in Denver. Like, for example,
it's a job. You know, you can do it. Yeah. I mean, you know, you don't need a lot. But there's a website, find your professional dungeon master. There's no shortage of people signed up to be professional dungeon.
Yeah, just make sure it's for the game.
Yeah.
I went to Fiverr one time I was gonna see if I could like prototype out something for my band, and I was thoroughly under-impressed. I mean, I thought there was just loads of crap there. This was a couple years ago, but I don't know what it's like now.
There's a lot of people on Fiverr just selling themselves short, and that's what pisses me off. Is you go
to
like
it's
the
a
art
race
section,
to the bottom.
Yeah, and there's like fantastic art, and they're like, yeah, I'll do your portrait of like your whole family for $10. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to compete with that. Where do you live? Like Ethiopia? Like how, you know, what's your overhead?
Yeah,
you can do a drawing that complicated for $10.
It seems like all these work platforms, the visual ones, the audio ones, what are the other online work platforms? It seems like they're all races to the bottom, and sometimes they start off pretty good and then they just end up, you know, in the toilet. It's just low quality employers, low quality artists, low quality jobs, low pay. What's the big one?
I mean, but this is one of the things all the AI artists started accusing me of, was having a massive ego, you know, and like, oh, I'm so like, they couldn't understand, I'm just having a bit of fun and teasing them a bit, but you know, you know, okay, I got a bit of an ego. I think I can draw. I work hard. You know, I don't really understand this term, massive ego. I mean, like, you have your super ego, which is your adult voice, and your id, which is your child voice, and you have the ego is the thing that balances between it. I mean, and I don't know, it just seemed to be sort of like, they kept accusing me of all these things. I'm like, I don't know where you're getting these things. They said I was full of hate. They said I was jealous.
It's called projection.
And I just felt like these things don't
apply to me.
Surely they apply to you, though. I mean, if you're calling me these things, then I think they apply to you.
Projection, Chuck.
I don't know where they're coming from.
They're projecting on you. Okay. Yeah. Is there like, you know, you're overconfident and you have this massive ego and you think you're so talented, right? Doesn't that sound like an AI artist?
Yeah.
You think you're so talented. You think you know, it's
actual artists, we don't talk to each other like that.
Like I said, the AI group, the AI universe group that I posted your challenge to, they just ripped in it and they had to close the comments because it got really nasty. Like, people were on the edge of doxing you, right? And like, you know, looking you up and trying to find like nefarious things, and you're like who does this guy think he is? And oh, he's only done comics for years. I've never heard of him before, and shit like that. And it's like, you know, fuck you. Like, it's just, you know, and I even posted like, this is all in good fun. if you guys want to have fun with this and accept this challenge and stuff. And again, nobody accepted the challenge. All they were doing was shitting on you.
Yeah, bunch of cowardly pussies. That's what I'm going to say. Well, although I should use that word. I don't know what the word we're supposed to use these days.
That's usually what the internet is used for. Cat and cat pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, wimps. Use Trump's phrase.
Is that what Trump says? Wimps?
Well, that came out the other day. He was calling Mike Pence a wimp.
Remember when they called George Senior Bush a wimp? Remember when that was like his thing in the 80s? People thought he was wimpy compared to Reagan. He's a former head of the CIA. Yeah, I'm sure he's a wimp.
Yeah.
Because that's what the CIA does. They hire lots of wimps.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start doing the Stephen Colbert thing where I'm just not going to say his name. I'm going to come up with other things, like the Cheeto in Chief and stuff like that. I'll just say other things.
Yes. It needs to be like Voldemort. Yeah, you make him come real. I don't know. She never really. I never really like. There was always don't speak Voldemort's name, and then Harry Potter would speak it, and I always thought, well, is she actually doing something with that where is making him, giving him more power or something? I don't know. There was like a lot of stuff, and it wasn't really. That was one of the things that wasn't quite resolved for me. Is whether
that's a thing that is often in novels involving magic, or the idea where the name has power.
You're going to conjure them. It's like Candyman.
That goes back to mysticism. That goes back to Jewish mysticism during the Roman century. Is that, when you name something, you limit it. When it's unnamed, it has an unlimited amount of power because it's amorphous and it can always change. And so they would talk about things in Jewish mysticism like naming demons. And it like when you're possessed in exorcism belief, right? And you're in need of an exorcism. One of the things that gives power over the demon inside of you is naming that demon and identifying it, and then saying, leave this place, Beelzebub, or whichever demon it happens.
You mean giving it a name or figuring out its name?
Or figuring out its name has power over it. And again, it's not just Jewish mysticism that this goes in. It's also, Christian exorcism, like, the Southern Baptists that are doing the shows of exorcists, where the people are shaking and stuff like that.
With a snake?
Well, even the snake people. Yeah. I watched Religion for Breakfast, and he was talking about exorcism in one of his recent episodes. And so that's the only reason why it's like fresh in my mind about that, about naming
San
demons.
Jose die in one recent. It was like earlier this year.
With a snake?
No, an exorcism. You have to be really careful. I think the Roman Catholic Church now has to have a doctor nearby if they do this.
Well, that's because there was plenty of deaths, and it's like, hey, aren't you responsible because you had priests doing this? And the Catholic Church technically doesn't recognize exorcism, and they don't allow priests to exercise officially, but they kind of turn a blind eye to it.
I was going to say,
if a priest wanted to do an exorcism, the church isn't going to stop them, but they're not going to send like a cardinal to help or something.
I got to ask my uncle about this, because I did not think the Catholic Church participated in any of this stuff. I grew up Catholic. And nobody ever told me like, we're not supposed to talk about this, but Betty over next door is having an exorcism tonight. I never remember that growing up. I'll ask my uncle about it. I'll be like, what's the church's position on exorcism? Speaking of which,
according to Wikipedia,
you can't trust that.
The official stance on exorcism from the Catholic Church is the Catholic Church authorizes the use of exorcism for those who are believed to be the victims of demonic possession. In Roman Catholicism, exorcism is a sacramental, but not a sacrament, unlike baptism or confession. So it's not required as part of your belief system, but it is something that needs to be performed by a priest.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, that's interesting. I don't know if I trust the Wikipedia on that, but I probably should for that one. I can't see how controversial that would be. I didn't hear anything about it. Like I used to know my sacraments, and I maybe still do if I'm called upon, but yeah, exorcism was not in there. They didn't
No.
assume the devil was going to take possession of you at some point.
You
They're
know,
like,
it's
you'll be confirmed, and then marriage is a sacrament, and then everyone gets possessed after that, usually between the time they're married and then you get your exorcism.
One of the most recent Religion for Breakfast episodes that they have on YouTube right now, it talks about the shepherd of the shepherd of I don't remember, Hermes, the Shepherd of Hermes. And the Shepherd of Hermes was a book that was almost included in the Bible, but over time was taken out because it didn't kind of fit with the rest of the Bible. It wasn't one of the apostles talking or anything. It was a former Roman slave called Hermes talking about these visions that he received from an angel, and then all of these like lessons and stuff and prophecies that he received from the angel, and he just wrote them all down. Well, what's interesting about this is even though it's not technically a biblical story anymore, it's not in the King James Bible, people don't teach it in church anymore, within the Shepherd of Hermes comes the image of each person having an angel and a devil inside of them, the devil on the left shoulder and the angel on the right. And that image still permeates in our society today from that book, even though we don't even read the book anymore, right? Like, so they had that. And then a lot of early Christian art had the shepherd with wings because that's how the angel presented himself to Hermes, is as a shepherd, as a human shepherd with wings. And so the idea of a human with wings, that idea, the image we get from the Shepherd of Hermes and not from the Bible, where the angels are described as wheels of eyes. And so we have these.
What? Ooh,
you didn't know that?
You do not want to look up how angels are described.
Yeah, that's why I always
Wheels of
post
eyes.
the biblical angel stuff on
Is that
Facebook.
in the book of Revelations?
Yeah, it's
right. He was doing a lot of drugs or something. I mean,
no.
Yeah,
one of the angels is presented as a wheel of eyes. It's like two interlocking wheels, and then another one is like looks like a beholder. It has like a big giant bulbous thing of just eyes going in every direction. And so that's how most angels were described. But in the Shepherd of Hermes, this book that's been removed from the Bible but exists in older texts and stuff, has that human with the wings image of an angel that we still have throughout the rest of Christianity. And so, like the angel Michael appears in the book. And like whenever you see Michael represented anywhere in Christian or Catholic art, you always see him as a person with wings, because that's how he was described in the book.
You mean as in touched by an angel? He's played by Michael Landon.
God, I can't remember the source of this. I was actually looking up angel descriptions recently because I'm a Fortean and we were having an argument about it, because there are people who will make Christmas tree toppers that are actually designed as angels from the Bible, and they're horrific. But I think if the Annunciation, I can't, who
here, this is just Google image search.
What year was this
in here? But this is angel description in the Bible, right? So you can see how the angels are described.
Ooh.
And they're just a bundle of wings and eyes and wheels and eyes. The eyes are very important to the angels.
What year was this shepherd seeing this stuff? Like what?
Let's see.
What's the book called?
It's called The Shepherd of Hermes.
Shepherd of Hermes.
But I think in the Bible, the description of the angel that came to Mary did not have wings.
I think it was also eyes, because most of them are eyes.
I'm not going to get into this. I'm unqualified to discuss it. I looked at a lot of I have a degree in illustration, so I had to look at a lot of religious art. But the thing that I was the most interested in later in life was I was convinced that there was a cat at the Last Supper, because a lot of paintings of the Last Supper would have a cat in it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
there probably was. There were probably a bunch of them hanging around. They were like feral in those days. People didn't keep them as pets. They were just hanging around everywhere. So it would have been hard to keep them away.
Yes, but does that mean it's one of the disciples?
Of cat Jesus.
According to the Book of Mary Magdalene, which is another book that was removed from the Bible, she was the 13th apostle of Jesus and later his wife and mother of his children.
Well,
Somebody's been reading the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail.
I
You can
remember
see why they removed
that was
that.
also
Da
used
Vinci
in
Code, if
that
you couldn't be bothered with
popular
that.
book. Wasn't
We just
there
had, like, a
something
bunch
called
of
Da Vinci Code?
Well, the Da Vinci Code basically grabbed the Book of Mary Magdalene and used it as inspiration.
Yeah.
But the Book of Mary Magdalene really exists.
It grabbed the book, the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and it used that as inspiration.
Oh, that's right. That's right. She was described as the Grail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the Grail, like the son, like Jesus' child with her, basically, is the Holy Grail.
That's right. That's right. And there's like a bloodline, and when
it's all been about
Holy
protecting
Grail
this
came out,
bloodline.
wasn't that a French book?
It was two researchers. They were. I remember reading it like sort of somewhere around 1992 or 3, somewhere around there.
I just included the link to the Gospel of Mary, which is the Book of Mary Magdalene, and that's the one that has since been. It was removed from the Bible, but in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found enough fragments of the book to know about the gist of what the book was. And so, it's really interesting.
Things like the Gospel of Thomas. Yes. In these Dead Sea Scrolls, they found a lot of things. Now they were like they're busily writing scriptures away and hiding them in jars up in the mountains. Like quite a lot. They found some, and it's been a bit confusing because there's been a lot of fake ones as well that the museum bought. But guess what? The ones that are too ridiculous to be true.
That's a business.
Too ridiculous to be true. But
it's
let's do that business.
The Hazard Stationery kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
But, there's some other books of the Bible that were left out when the Bible was put together about 400 years after the death of Christ. They thought, well, we're going to put these ones in because they suit the Roman Catholic agenda, and these
we'll leave out these controversial ones about Christ having sex with Mary over here.
Yeah.
And
well, the thing was, when King James made his version of the Bible, that's when the Book of Mary Magdalene was removed, because there's a lot of things in that book about how women should have rights. And
that was as late as that. The King James Bible took the Book of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah. But there's things in there about how like women should be in charge of the home, right? And women should have a say in what's going on in their society. Basically, like women should have a vote. And King James didn't want any of that. No. And so he's like, no, Mary's no longer an apostle. We only have 12 apostles. 13 is an unlucky number. And they had to keep things like, Mary is the one that stayed outside the tomb and then realized that the stone had been moved and went back to the other apostles to say, Jesus had spoke to me and this is what he said, right? So there's still instances from the Book of Mary Magdalene that still exist within the rest of the Bible. But the fact that he spoke to her and like gave his message to her and stuff, she was basically a prophet of Jesus. And they kind of diminished her importance in the book. So
and Robert Crumb again. I've talked about Robert Crumb's Book of Genesis often, but also in the back it's got all sorts of notes about how
the Virgin Mary was probably about 12 years old too when she had Jesus, and that's something that they don't talk about. She was probably about 12 or 14 years old, and Joseph was in his mid 30s, I want to say. So he's in his mid 30s with basically a teenage wife.
He's like, she's a virgin.
Things were different back then.
Yeah, she's a virgin. Sure, she is. And but that's something they ever talk about. Is one of the reasons why she and Jesus were always so close is because they're actually really close in age. They kind of grew up together. Yeah. So when Jesus is 32, she's only 44. Or no, I'm sorry. She's only 44 when he's 32. So it's like,
the thing about Jesus, if I'm to believe the that Zeitgeist series that came out, is there aren't a lot of historical entries for this Jesus guy.
No, there are a lot. There is a lot of historical. There's more historical evidence for Jesus than there is for Julius Caesar.
According to this, they say when you go to contemporary historians, of course there's lots of entries hundreds of years later for Jesus and a whole Bible around him. But they say when you go to the contemporary historians of the time, he doesn't get mentioned a whole lot. I thought, well, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know.
It didn't really become significant until
Victor
much later.
Going back with
spreading
Religion for Breakfast, they have another video called "Was Jesus a Magician?" And they talk about the difference between like a holy man and like a charlatan. And not necessarily that Jesus was a charlatan, but one of the crimes that the Jews and the Romans basically put Jesus on trial for during the Passion was for mysticism, was for doing things like holy healing. For example, when he heals a blind man, what he does is he grabs some mud and he puts spit in it, and then he puts it over the blind man's eyes, and he tells the blind man to go over to like a pool and wash out his eyes, and the guy can see again. So they're talking about how he uses basically stuff like things to make like medicinals, and that's described oftentimes in the Bible. Like, even though with the leopards, he just touched the leopard, he spit in his hand before he touched the leopard. So it's like he used his own. There's a lot of spit in the Bible, actually. It's fascinating. There's something like 5 or 6 different mentions of spit. It's like
Robitussin.
Yeah. But it's a fascinating video. It's basically talking about everything.
Well, it is Jesus. It is Jesus.
This is actually quite fascinating because I see the Bibles everywhere, but I haven't read it yet.
It's, honestly, Dale, I would recommend reading it and treat it like Beowulf, right? Treat it like Gilgamesh, right? It's an old ancient text, and this is what the people at that time believed. And it's actually really fascinating. It's really interesting. But if you try and read it like this is how we should dictate our lives by today, there's a lot in there that needs to be taken out. Like, you should sell your daughter for at least 40 pieces of silver when you sell her into slavery.
Don't shortchange your daughter, okay? 40 pieces.
Don't get tattoos. That marks you with the devil.
Now. And if I had read and was able to talk about the Bible, I would be completely insufferable.
I had to read the Bible, I think, in school. And I remember large passages of it and Beowulf being really boring because, by modern standards, they would describe lots of repetitive things, the same things that would happen every day. It'd be like, it's really dark, and I kept on marching. This is Beowulf. It's really dark, and I kept on marching, and the next day was even darker, and the day after that was just as dark. And they didn't really understand that, like, in modern storytelling, you can skip the repetitive bits.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that when I'm in a hotel, I always check for the Gideon's Bible, because you never know what you will find in the Bible. You'll find slips of paper with phone numbers. You'll find money. You'll find notes. Always check your Bible. And if the pictures aren't bolted to the wall, pull the pictures back and see what's behind the pictures.
I'll have to remember to do that.
Yeah.
The Pickwick in San Diego, I remember, had tons of sketches and cartoons and stuff behind all of the pictures downstairs in the lobby of the Pickwick, because cartoonists been going to San Diego Comic-Con since the 70s, had been staying there and then pulling pictures off the wall and drawing stuff. So I don't know what happened to any of those paintings or anything, but like you'd see Gil Kane drawings, you'd see Sergio Aronius drew a bunch of stuff. I remember seeing there's Jack Kirby drawings, behind these things and signed by them, and like Will Eisner, and I mean just things you wouldn't expect. Like Will Eisner drew this one of a really busty woman taking her boobs and holding them up like this so that a guy could walk underneath of her with a plate, right? So she's lifting her boobs out of the way so he could walk.
I would just explain that as drawing different body types.
Yeah, but
I'd say I'm trying to represent different body types.
But I mean, it's something that Will Eisner did. He signed it in 1985.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, but
and
Chuck,
so I saw it in 97.
But Chuck, you can't represent the same one again and again. Seems like it's overrepresented.
I hate drawing boobs.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened to those drawings when they got rid of the Pickwick. They tore it down, what, about 15 years ago or so?
Well, hopefully someone got them.
You just gave me a great idea, Amber. I feel like I should go into hotels with a blank sheet of paper and some double-sided tape and just do, because I do a lot of doodles and stuff, doodles and put them behind all the stuff that's hanging in the hotel room. You know, just put them up there. Maybe I'll just put my initials on them so they can't come after me. By the time like room services finds those things, it'll probably be a year later. You know,
you guys can see this very clearly. This was a couple of years ago. I was driving past City Hall.
Body freedom.
There was a body freedom post.
Body freedom.
Are they nudists?
This is good when you're driving past City Hall.
God, they look cold.
Are they nudists?
That's what
some
I
of them
could
were
not
more
do
nude
that.
than others. They're body freedom. They were celebrating. They wanted different body types, diversity of different body types, basically.
Okay.
But, that's just a nice.
I don't know how they do it. Like I could only be a nudist where it's warm all the time.
Crisco, it's like the people who would swim the English Channel. You got to grease up.
This guy's just Mickey Lou. Look, this guy. There's this big guy with his backpack and shorts. He's just standing there golfing.
There was a nudist colony near where I grew up. It was in Lake Elsinore, and it was basically a trailer park that was a nudist colony. And so, it had fences all the way around it and everything. And, I never really went there very often. But in high school, I found out that one of my friends in high school lived in the nudist colony. And so, I never went and visited her at her house, at her trailer. But I asked her once, what's it like walking around a nudist colony? She's like, you just get used to people being naked.
Yeah.
And she grew up there. She grew up in the nudist colony. And so I'm like, so do you walk around naked? And she's like, sometimes. Yeah, it's like
my favorite TV show,
on Laundry Day.
You ever seen Clown? It's a Danish TV show. There's a very good nudist colony episode. I highly recommend Clown and the Clown movie. First one, second Clown movie is a bit awful, but apparently there's a third one coming, so they've got a chance to redeem themselves.
Wait, have you guys heard about this thing? So you said Danish, and I think this is Danish as well. But there's a Danish cartoon where the guy has like kind of a prehensile penis. It's like
12
feet long.
Thing.
Like, and it's for kids. It's for kids. Me and my bandmates were watching this, and we were just laughing our asses off because this guy will like help you fix stuff with his penis, but it's super long. And I forget what it's called.
They asked him about it, well, why'd you do the penis? And and the creator's like, because kids find penises funny.
Exactly, they do.
It's
and
like,
adults.
Let me see. David, they don't care. They walk around naked. Like my wife's grandmother-in-law, the mother of her father's wife, she was a former Olympic athlete, and she just came down for breakfast one morning. Well, I think she was wearing some underpants, but she was topless. She was in her 90s, just walking around, but she was in good shape, so whatever.
I'm putting it.
That's just Take Life Drawing. You need
I think they've got a new Clown movie. Is this Clown the Final that's coming? Okay.
Dude, so I found this article about it. It says it's in the New York Post, and it says Danish cartoon about man with super long penis enrages parents. Oh my god. And then they show, I mean, you got to watch this thing because it's hilarious.
I think that was a very similar title when Harry Potter first came out, is, book about boy wizard enrages parents.
The penis cartoon like that will enrage parents. I mean, if you were upset about Harry Potter, wait till you see the.
But if you watch this thing, as me and my bandmates watched several episodes of it, it's just hilarious and fun, and there's nothing parents should be getting, or at least this parent's going to get worried about. I'm trying to figure out.
I think one of the episodes I saw, or one of the bits of the episode, is he rescued a cat out of a tree with his penis.
Here's one where it looks like he's taming a lion with his penis. Oh my god. I mean, I look at this and it makes me laugh so hard because it would never happen in the U.S. Like, not in a million years.
On that note, here in the U.S., we're all about violence, right? Over in Europe, they're all about sex on TV. In Canada, they're like, bring it all on. And so all they do is they have they have warnings in front of things, oh, this is mature content. Oh, watch out for bad language or whatever. But they don't care otherwise what it is, as long as it has a warning. I saw the original Wicker Man on the kids channel.
My favorite movie, well, one of them, The Wicker Man. I love it.
Yeah, the original Wicker. There's so much toplessness in that episode, or in that movie.
Oh yes, yeah,
and it was on the kids channel in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
I saw it as a kid. I conned my parents into taking me to it. So I was younger. I must have been like 9.
Yeah.
Your parents took you to the Wicker. Did you like it at age 9?
Yes. I thought it was one of the greatest things I had ever seen.
No.
It's not a bad horror movie for 9 because there's not actually a lot of horror.
It's not a horror movie. It's a suspense musical.
Yeah.
It's a musical.
They didn't
Wicker
take you
Man?
to see Midsummer, though.
Yeah, it's got great songs.
No.
It's got one of the best sort of.
I'm sorry. I consider Midsummer rich white people problems.
Which right?
Yeah,
it's more like
it was. She wasn't super rich white people problem. I mean, they were.
I'm sorry, but people who let's just decide to go to Sweden for the summer.
You have
oh my god!
No, they were PhD.
Talk about travel before. You don't like the idea of travel, like you think.
Yeah, they were doing their PhD studies and stuff.
Yeah.
But not everyone can afford travel, Chuck. Not everyone can afford travel. Not everyone can afford it.
You'll realize you're mistaken about these ideas. You've been sold these ideas by a culture that doesn't want you to travel.
Yes.
Why do they want to keep you here?
Travel.
It's
not.
Very
expensive
it's really
to
not.
travel.
It is okay. Once you've got a wife or a spouse and a kid, it's trouble. Yes, then it gets very expensive. When you're young and you're on your own and you don't have any commitments, it's very cheap and easy.
Well. When you're young and you're on your own in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, but then heading into the 90s, it became a little more expensive.
Well, lately it's very confusing. Yeah, it's difficult. Yes.
When I went to Costa Rica, it's pretty cheap, and we stayed at some pretty cheap hostels, public transit.
But Costa Rica is in this hemisphere. Okay, if you cross into a hemisphere, it's in the Western Hemisphere, I should say. But if you go over to Europe or you go over to Asia, it's thousands of dollars just for the one-way ticket. Most people can't afford that.
It's pretty expensive to go to South America or Central America.
Yeah.
We got a free cruise to Greece and Turkey once.
You got to plan
What year, Dale?
2001, like days before 9/11.
You could go on a cargo ship.
No,
you're thinking, I've just got to go to this place now. Then that's what it costs me. So you've got to go like, where's it cheap for me to go now? I'll go
Lots
there.
of cats.
Being a 5'3" girl, I cannot go on a cruise ship. I would end up raped and thrown into the water.
Oh my God, cruise ship!
Not a cruise ship. I'm sorry, but a cargo ship. I can't go on a cargo ship.
Yeah.
Being a 5'3" woman.
What about one of those love boats?
Cheap and easy, and you won't get raped if you go on a cruise ship. That's just problem.
Okay, I didn't mean cruise ship.
Actually,
I meant a cargo ship.
Wait.
I can't go on a cargo ship.
I was going to say.
There is a website that collects crime reports from cruise lines. The cruise ships don't want you to know of all the crimes that occur on cruise ships. They are not the safest place to be.
Oh,
there's on average
about murders on cruise ships, people disappearing off cruise ships.
There's on average about 30 disappearances off of cruise ships every year. And those are the ones just registered in the United States. Those are just US citizens. We don't even know about other people from other countries, right? But there's about 30 disappearances on cruise ships. They don't know if they go over, they don't know if they're eaten, they don't know what happens to them.
That's why when you're on a ship, you usually have a card. So when you're leaving, they scan you out. So they will know if you're on the ship or not based on the in and out of the card.
Yeah.
All I got to say is don't hang out by that railing alone at night with no witnesses around. You have to have like more deck cams, I think, for those marriages that don't work out.
You guys heard about the guy that was in the water for 15 hours and got rescued by the helicopter after falling off a cruise ship, right?
No,
you didn't hear about that. This
must
have
been warm somewhere warm.
This happened This happened last week. The guy was in the Gulf of Mexico and he was on a cruise ship and basically fell over the edge. They haven't officially said why he fell over the edge and stuff, but he did tell the news that he had to sign an NDA and he can't discuss it about how he ended up over the edge. But he was in the water of the Gulf of Mexico in shark-infested water for 15 hours or so until he was spotted by a passing cargo ship that said, hey, there's somebody in the water. And then they sent a helicopter that went and rescued him. And so there's footage that you can see on the internet of the rescue helicopter, taking him out and him like waving with his hand in infrared and stuff. But yeah, he had to sign an NDA of how he ended up over the edge.
I would have signed it.
In return for the NDA, or if that's part of
what do you get?
When you get the
ticket. That's just it. Is I think they gave him a settlement to sign the NDA.
I think you need to have better guardrails.
Yeah, but he basically told the news that he can't discuss how he ended up over the side. Oh gosh, I'm so happy that they rescued me. Thank you for rescuing me and stuff. But the cruise ship had no idea he was gone until he was picked up by the helicopter, and they said, "Where'd you come from?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I came from this cruise ship that was going through here and stuff." And then they radioed the cruise ship, and they're like, "Oh no, all of our passengers are accounted for." And so then they went and did a cabin check and realized he wasn't in his cabin.
Maybe he went on the slide.
Well, he wouldn't be.
He went down one of those slides they have, and it shot him out over into the sea.
I bet it was Carnival.
About that.
I don't know.
I think it was Carnival.
I don't remember which cruise company it was, but the guy, when he was rescued, they did a blood alcohol check on him, albeit this is 15 hours after he's been in the water, and he had no alcohol in his system. He had no marijuana in his system. He had no other barbiturates or anything in his system. So it's not like he was, he could have metabolized all the alcohol in that 15 hours, but they believe that there would have been at least trace amounts left over if he had been drunk, if he had fallen into the water. So they don't know how he ended up in the water.
Depends on his weight, and it depends on his how much he had to drink.
But he was
the water.
Yeah,
the water
he suffered
one drink an hour.
Well, he suffered hypothermia and frostbite of his toes and his fingers. So I mean, he was in pain, and I think he's still in a hospital.
Did we just
because he was dehydrated and stuff too.
Yeah, we just lost Chuck. Oh wait, he's in
Chuck fell overboard.
He's in the standby area.
Okay, maybe he's doing a Chuck thing.
He just switched himself off, so I don't know. He could yell at the dog.
I'm back here, so Tina just
were you cursing at whiskey? God damn
no,
whiskey, you motherfucker.
Mrs.
Be nice to that
it's
dog.
our viewer. All right, well, we've got 3 viewers right now. That's great. All right,
good.
well, I
I'll
recommend
stop
John Ronson.
Stop dropping the MFs then, I guess.
Have you all been reading John Ronson? I insist anybody listening to the show has to read John Ronson.
Who's John Ronson?
I'm looking at this book. What is this?
John Ronson, he wrote The Men Who Stare at Goats, The Psychopath Test, So You've Been Publicly Shamed, and one of my favorites, Lost at Sea, The John Ronson Mysteries. That's very good. And Them, Adventures with Extremists. I also highly recommend. I recommend basically anything, especially if he's reading it on audiobook, because he reads his own audio stuff very well.
I just picked up an audio book.
He's very interested in the mysteries of life, and he's also quite interested in cults and things and brainwashing, all sorts of different phenomena.
According to the description of this book that you linked, this Lost at Sea book, he's looking at the children of Insane Clown Posse Juggalo fans.
Oh yeah,
and like pop singers who are expecting alien invasions. Like,
that's Robbie Williams goes to an alien con. That's very good. Yeah, these are all, and he goes
Alaska Town's Christmas-induced high school mass murder plot. Like this is in the description of this book you just linked.
Yeah, he goes right and he meets these people. He hangs out with them and he talks to them and. Real life superheroes. Them adventures.
I've read the Psychopath Test. I have that one, so I've enjoyed his writing. But
I was disappointed by that one. I thought it was going to get a real psychopath test, and it didn't. At the end of it was very ambivalent, and I was like, But some of the interviews were cool.
Well, he talks about this particular hair psychopathy test that is used to determine. I mean, you can go online and take that test. But he talked about it as being a controversial thing. I mean, he talks.
As it should be. I just thought it was going to be more like definitive. Some of those interviews I remember being interesting.
He's more the guy that he goes and actually talks to the people, and he really goes and meets some crazy people in all his different things.
The DSM-7 they're working on right now, and I know they're in talks about changing the terminology for psychopath and sociopath. Because they don't like the negative connotation of those phrases. to describe that type of condition.
They are negative, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're looking to soften the language by calling it something else.
Sounds like some psychopaths got a hold of them.
Because so people understand that a psychopath is 1 in 100 and a sociopath is about 4 or 5 in 100.
Yeah. And my brother is definitely a psychopath. He's been diagnosed like officially as a psychopath and given tools to appear less like a psychopath, so he appears like more normal. No, he was given tools like make sure you maintain eye contact for 5 seconds, then look away, so you're not too intensely staring at people, but people also feel like you're interested in what they're saying, because psychopaths generally aren't. Okay. You know, I mean, I'm talking about very manipulative tools my brother was given to appear normal.
You know, one of the things I got out of that book,
is it really?
You know, there's one of those interviews, and I can't remember which one it is in the psychopath test, where the guy says, you know, I want people to like me, so I smile a lot, I laugh at their jokes, I pay attention to them. And his whole point in getting people to like him, which struck me as bizarre because I thought psychopaths were like antisocial and stuff. He goes, the reason I want people to like me is because I can influence them a lot better. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's manipulative as shit.
So all these really charming people I have to keep an eye on now? Fuck.
Yeah.
And also, like,
those are the techniques that you read in management books.
Yeah.
But psychopaths don't normally mind, like, they think all the traits of psychopathy are good traits.
Yeah.
You know, they think that's a sort of value, you know, they don't see anything wrong with it, you know, and they're a little confused about why everyone gets wound up at them.
Yeah, like my brother, you know, he says he's all about family, right? But my niece, I wasn't allowed to see for the first 5 years of her life at all, not even photos, because I posted one photo on Facebook when she was first born, and I'm like, yeah, I have a niece, and that pissed off my brother, and he just cut me out of his life for 5 years.
Wow.
And he says he's all about family, right?
Yeah.
But you know, like, he didn't even tell me why I was on the outs with him. It just happened, and I didn't know why I pissed off my brother, right? So he's all about family. He spends about 19 to 20 hours a day in front of his computer working at home with his door shut, locked to his family.
Is he an AI artist?
No, he's a programmer, but that's what I mean, is he's a psychopath. So externally, he's all about family. I want to protect my family from, you know, my sister posting this information and possibly someone stealing it. Later on, he told me that was his reason for cutting me out of his life, right? And he said, I want to protect my family and stuff. But the nitty gritty of it, behind closed doors, his door is locked to his family so he can work for 20 hours.
Maybe he's just paranoid.
No, he's a psychopath. He doesn't care about his family. He cares about the appearances of looking like he cares about his family, but he actually, in his mind, does not care about his family. There are means to an ends for him of perpetuating his family line.
Right. And it's not an unusual thing. It's the one person in 100. And they sure will think that they're fine, and they sure will think that you should be like them.
Yeah.
And they'll try and convince everybody. They try and say everybody should be like me.
Yeah, and they say, oh no, you know, you don't know what people are like. People are just out to get you and stuff like that, because that's what they think.
They think everybody's like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody models the world based on their own themselves, and they try to extend themselves by changing the world so it's a calmer, peaceful, more easy to understand place. Like, I feel like everybody does that. You know, really sweet, sweet people want everyone to be really sweet. Cutthroat people think everybody should be more cutthroat. You know, I think, you know, it's just like they always want to extend, and kind of the way that they judge the world is based on, you know, their own, I don't know, their own personal, taste, and they can't understand why, you know, this wouldn't work out for everybody.
Yeah, they're just basically missing a whole functioning area.
So let me put it this way, okay? With my brother, let me try and explain what it's like to be related to a psychopath. So my father played guitar, and I play guitar. I took lessons in high school. I continued playing guitar for the last 30 years. I'm not good. I'm not amazing. You know, I can play a few songs. I can sing a few songs. I'm good at campfire guitar. My brother had a band in high school and they played the Whiskey A Go-Go and stuff. But when he dropped the band because everybody in the band was doing drugs, and he decided to drop drugs from his life, which was good for him. He put down the guitar. He put it in his guitar case, and he literally left it there for 25 years. And when my father died, my brother took out his Martin, which is a $2,000 guitar, and he played it for the first time he's ever played guitar in about 20 years, and just kind of noodled with it a little bit. He didn't even tune it. It was out of tune. And then he's like, yeah, okay, I can't wait to get this guitar. And I'm sitting there and said, well, actually, Dad gave the guitar to me. And my brother threw a fit for like 2 weeks about how, I was absolutely selfish, and all I wanted was just the guitar, and blah, 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 and all of these sorts of things. But he gave me the guitar because I continued to play guitar. My father and I would talk about guitar. I would play guitar over the phone for him. When I went and I visited, I would pick up his guitar and tune it and clean it and restring it, because he was unable to after he had a hand injury. And, and take care of it. And so my dad left me his guitars because he knew I would maintain the guitars. My brother's plan was to sell them. That's why he was angry that he didn't get the guitar, because he wanted to get the $2,000 for the guitar.
Amber, respectfully, this happens with people who are not psychopaths. Everyone fights over inheritance items.
But my brother assumed the guitar would go to him because he had a band 20 years ago. And when he and I were talking about it, and I'm like, well, that's because I play guitar and you don't play guitar anymore. He's like, yeah, right. You don't play guitar. And so I picked up the guitar and I played Greensleeves for him. And he's like, oh, I guess you have kind of practiced over the years, right? He was forced to admit the fact that I've played every day and he hasn't. And that's why I got the guitars and he didn't.
Okay.
But again, he threw a fit for years.
I don't know if we have any viewers at the moment. I'm talking to you out there, kids. Make sure that your parents have a will and in writing determine where things go.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that makes me put a sticker on the back of everything that you want.
Usually, yeah. Get a sticker labeler. Get a labeler, folks, and then throw some stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
I sympathize. I've seen that, Amber. There's a relative of mine. There's a story where a number of relatives, they were all sisters, and they all hated the sister who stayed to take care of the parents because the parents gave her the house. And so there's a story in our family where the husband and sister held an axe over the parents' head to force them to sign the will.
Wow.
I don't think it's true, but it's a great story, so I want it to continue.
Well, my father also had some land that he promised me, and my mom is still dragging her feet in probate to give me the land. And my mom and my brother, because my brother is trying to convince my mom that the land should really go to them because he has a bigger family than I do. Yeah. He has one daughter. I have one daughter. And he says the bigger family because he took in mom when my dad died. And so he's like, well, I have a bigger family than you do. It's like, dude, we have the same family, right? I get the land because I don't have anything. And dad wanted to see if I could get a house. Meanwhile, you have, thousands of dollars in savings. You own 3 homes. You work this amazing job where you're making my brother probably makes $250,000 a year doing what he does. But again, he's working 20 hours, ignoring his family and not spending
valuable
time.
members and contributing members of society.
Yeah. And he is not a viewer.
Name for them.
And he's not a viewer. Yeah.
He's not a viewer on the show.
No, he's not.
I just want to point out that this is a common thing that happens within families, that once an inheritance comes into play, everyone is the enemy. And that's normal.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I've seen it enough times to know that it is normal. And the only thing I can suggest is be born an only child.
Huh.
Yeah. With my brother's psychopathy, I remember way back when I was like 18 or 19, the psychiatrist and psychologist bringing my family into the room to discuss how to live with a psychopath, right? And so they sit them down, and the gist of the 6-week course is you cannot trust a psychopath. They're only after themselves. They're manipulative. They don't care about you. They only care about themselves. Whatever they say is a means to an end, and you cannot trust them with private information because they will use that against you later on.
Yeah,
And
that's what the Scientologists, the first thing they do in their auditing, they give you some basic self-help that would help anybody, simple self-help stuff. But they also get you to confess to them, like while you're auditing. So you tell them all your dirty secrets. Then they have it all and they'll use it against you for the rest of the
But then you're clear, Chuck. After that, you're clear, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chuck, I'm not sure you understand.
Yeah, I'll be clear to give them all my money. I mean, yeah, you basically
I wonder what they have on Tom Cruise.
My Phaeton said mutiny. Probably him being gay.
Yeah,
because there was rumors of him being gay, and long before in the 80s, there was rumors of him with men. And stuff like that, and then he joined the Church of Scientology.
David Miscavige was one of his cabin boys.
Yeah,
he is no longer gay now. He is. Holy.
Yeah.
David Miscavige's wife has disappeared. No one knows what's happened to her. She's been locked away somewhere.
She's on vacation.
Is that true? When did that start?
Oh, that's been going for years.
20 years.
What, 20 years?
Yeah, she's been on vacation for 20 years.
She's been
You're kidding.
No one knows what happened to her.
And no one wants to touch that. No law enforcement agency says, hey, maybe we should really look into this thing.
So Scientology has a fleet of boats. They have a fleet of ships, right? And she was on one of the ships in international waters when she disappeared. Well, the boats keep meeting up with each other in international waters, and they keep telling people she just goes from boat to boat.
I guess it's possible.
So she's constantly in international waters where no one can
on the
find
slide
her.
and her again. Yeah.
Is that the Scientology thing? You just like hide your wife? Who else is doing this? Is it just David?
He's the only one that can really do it. But they will separate you from your kids and send your kids off to a work camp to dig ditches.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that way they can brainwash your kids and brainwash you.
New courses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they also do things like calorie deprivation in those camps and stuff. So they'll feed the kids things like just rice, and over time, it's called being calorie starved. Is you're getting enough to kind of sustain you, but there's different foods maintain different parts of your body. So protein maintains the brain. Carbohydrates and starches maintain like your digestion and kind of internal organs and stuff. But things like greens and stuff help your muscles and help your connective tissue and stuff. So they deprive them of protein and greens. They feed them just starches and carbohydrates. So they're basically getting kind of brain dead because the brain's not getting any food. Right? And they're getting calorie deprived. And what it does is it makes you more susceptible to suggestion over a period of time because your body's literally fighting to keep its calories to try it's not spending the energy on thinking. It's spending the energy on survival.
There's an episode of Simpsons like that where they try to give Homer Simpson low protein gruel at a cult.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I'm regretting my choice of donuts for breakfast.
Low protein gruel.
It's because donuts are really making him so smart. Yeah.
They were like, I thought this was supposed to wear down his resistance, and the other one's like, not if you eat a month's supply.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Back in the 80s, there was a big push for Scientology. You saw a lot of commercials on TV for the book Dianetics.
Yeah, when I first came here, even in '95, I
remember that
commercials.
Yeah, and then
with the volcano.
I met Kelly Freas, who I don't know if you've heard the name. He was a science fiction illustrator.
Oh yeah, Kelly Freas. Oh wow, yeah.
And he was involved with L. Ron Hubbard. Was originally a science fiction writer, and he had a contest that would go where he would try to help out new illustrators and new writers. And they would have a book out every year where he would have an award. And Kelly wanted me to try doing that. But I was going to Baycon in San Jose, and there'd be all these other sci-fi people, illustrators and artists. And I can't remember which one it was, took me aside and told me about L. Ron Hubbard and say, "Stay the hell away from Scientology."
Mm-hmm. Well, don't forget, one of L. Ron Hubbard's science fiction stories is about a man who creates a religion and takes over a planet.
Yeah, he was open about it at the time.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. He says, "Yeah, the money isn't in writing these stories; it's in starting a religion."
Yeah.
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 Did I tell you guys?
I worked at Walden Books. I was an assistant manager when I was in high school, and I remember Dianetics was up on the shelves. You know, it was on the bestseller rack, blah blah blah. And a woman came in who was with the Church of Scientology, and she bought every single copy of Dianetics to keep the sales up.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that they'll do.
Yeah,
that's what they'll con you to taking out 3 mortgages on your house so you can afford the next level course. You know,
I was in LA, and you know the big blue Scientology church down there that they did HBO did the documentary expose on.
Yeah.
So me and my friend Joe were like, let's go to it, right? So
yeah, it's called the Crystal Cathedral, I think. Something
yeah,
like that.
I don't know. So we go to where, like, you know, because I grew up Catholic, we go to the front doors, right? These big front doors, and we walk up and there's nobody around, and we start trying to open the doors and get in. And within like 30 seconds, the security guys show up on bikes, and they're super nice. And they're like, hey, you know, can we help you, whatever? And we're like, uh-oh, are we in trouble?
Mm-hmm.
But they were nice. And then they're like, oh, no, actually the entrance is around the back. So we go into the back of it. What's that?
They have a lot of empty buildings.
Yeah, well, this was a real church for worship. It was, you know, what they show in the HBO documentary. It wasn't like, it got used. And we go in through the back, and it's basically like all of the books, all of the tapes, everything is for sale at the entrance. And then there's a little L. Ron Hubbard like museum where they basically talk up the exceptionalism of L. Ron Hubbard, and you get to learn about his early life.
About how great he is, like,
and then there's
a strange psychopath.
Yeah, and then there's a theater.
Yeah,
where
I had a friend
you watch movies.
Who used to live at that church, right? And she got all wrapped up in Scientology and everything. I got a call at like 3:00 in the morning saying, you know, please come get me, right? And I showed up right at the front, right where you're talking about with the big doors and everything. And the, you know, security comes up. She ran with a banker's box of her stuff, jumped in the back of my car, slammed the door, locked it, and said, drive to get out. And so we were followed by Scientology cards for about 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You know, until the sun was rising and stuff. And meanwhile, she's telling me all this stuff about the Scientology, it just rattling on in the car while we're driving, trying to get away from these people. And she said that she was starting to fall for it. You know, she's starting to get in there, and my thetans, and I'm clear, and blah blah blah. And one of her jobs was cleaning the place, you know, like vacuuming and dusting, and, you know, cleaning
menial jobs for them. Yeah.
So she was never allowed to go into L. Ron Hubbard's office, right? There's an office for him at every single Scientology location for when he returns, right? And so So out of curiosity,
it's a tax dodge for their religious status.
Well, out of curiosity, because she was cleaning, she had all the keys on a key ring. So she decided to open up the office just to peek inside, and it was a storage closet. And she said that was the moment when she realized it was all bullshit, because it wasn't even an office for him. It was a storage closet.
I mean, when I was there, like, it was hitting all the red flags for me for like, this is a scam. I mean, for the first thing that they did is they had a thing talking up L. Ron Hubbard, trying to convince you how exceptional and how godlike he was. That was a red flag. They had all this paraphernalia for sale in the lobby. They wanted your information. That was a red flag. We went in and tried to sit through one of these movies telling us more about Scientology. And it was just one of this mindless, like fantasy of all these different organizations. I mean, it was very confusing and detailed and went nowhere. And we walked out of that. That was a red flag. And then they put me on that thing that was supposed to measure my negative, vibes.
The cans. They put you on the cans.
They put me on the cans, right? They put me on the cans. And that was obviously a bunch of bullshit. So it's like, it was red flag after red flag. But, we knew it was going to be like that. We just wanted to check it out.
Yeah. It's a lie detector, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cans.
Don't even go to check that stuff out. You have to remember, these guys are pros.
They took over the cult network in order to take out all the information about them being a cult.
Yeah, they're very, very carefully designed to manipulate you, turn you into a psychopath, or as much as you can. If you are a psychopath, you'll rise up quite well, probably.
I don't know if
you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody feels this way about themselves. Maybe everybody does, but I actually think I'm probably in the 1% for being resistant to that stuff. I'm a person that requires You're right. I'm a person that requires so much work to get me in. It doesn't make sense to even go through the work to do it. There's so many other people that are easier than me.
I'm always, why? Like, well, why is that? Well, why? Like, I remember doing the cans thing at a San Diego Comic-Con where the Scientology had set up a booth because they were trying to convert people at the con, right? And so they were doing their evaluations or their readings or whatever with the cans right there in front of everybody. And so I was like, okay, let's do this, right? Well, the thing is if you tighten your muscles, it makes the needle go up. Right. And so I was tightening my muscles between questions to fuck with them. And I could see the person just confused about why the needle was going up when I wasn't talking, when I wasn't answering any questions. And they're just like, does this person understand theme levels?
Okay.
I was just doing the opposite.
That's a good way. All right, good way to start with them. I like
it. 1% and that you haven't been scammed yet. Scam is out there waiting for you.
I got to tell you, I could be scammed, but you have to be really, really clever. Like
you have to be persistent.
I really think you do. Like I've never been financially scammed. I've never really lost money in markets, and I've been doing that for 20 years.
The only time I've ever quote unquote been scammed is those people that are like, oh, here I sent you a $2,000 check. Oh, I only meant to send you 1,000. Hey, send back the rest. But it's not a real check and stuff. I had one of those guys when I was living in Minneapolis, and I went on a website of please help me with my rent, right? And so this guy contacted me via PayPal or whatever, and sent me a physical check that was one of those fake checks, right? Mm-hmm. But what I did is I recognized the scam ahead of time, and so I deposited the check, and then I pulled out the $2,000. And so when he was like, "Oh no, you need to send back money. I didn't mean to send you that." I went, "I'm sorry, I don't recognize this number." Oh, new phone, who dis? Kind of thing. And when the bank contacted me saying it wasn't a real check, I went, oh, I didn't know. I posted on this website to help me with my rent and everything. So the bank let me keep the money.
That's insane.
Yeah, the bank let me keep the money.
I guess they're insured. They're insured somehow. I've been scammed before, but you just have to work super hard to do it. To me, I mean, so hard that I don't think. Like if I was a scam artist, I would not scam me. I'd spend a little time on me. I'd recognize how hard this was going to be, and I would jump to somebody who is easier.
You're what charlatans call a bad mark.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say I'm a bad mark. Yeah. I certainly have had a lot.
Someone a little gullible, a little, naive.
I think people look at my face and think I might be a good mark. No, I really do. Like when I was going to school, I always felt like I got singled out by religious people, because I'd be hanging out on the lawn, having lunch or whatever. And then these religious people would come over and sit near me. And I always thought I got kind of disproportionately targeted. And then, I thought to myself, well, they knew it was a mistake pretty early on, but I felt like I was getting disproportionately asked to join religions when I was at school.
The best way to prevent people from trying to convert you to their religion is actually reading their holy text and using those words against them. Like I remember I had a guy when I was going to MCAD trying to convert me to Christianity, and he was, oh, God's greatness and everything like that. But he had a huge cross tattoo on his arm, that with some some scripture under the cross. And so I quoted Leviticus that, having tattoos marks you with the mark of the devil. Right. And he's like, that's not in the Bible. And I'm like, let me see your Bible. And I went and found the phrase and pointed it to him. And he reads it about having tattoos marks you with that of the devil and stuff. And then he's realizing he has a cross on his arm and there's nothing he can do. He's already marked with the mark of the devil.
I feel like just being myself is what turned a lot of these religious types off, because I've got no problem swearing, talking about sex, or a lot of other stuff that they don't like.
Yeah.
It's just in my, and this is when I was in my 20s, so it was even worse.
When these guys fail, remember, this is a sales job. So when you give them the time and you talk to them, they are practicing their sales pitch. I am sure that what Amber did, this guy later rationalized for his next pitch.
You made that criminal better.
Walk away from scam artists once you don't play with them. I did that once and it cost me money. I thought that I knew what I was doing at an auction and I ended up scammed. If someone's done it long enough, they've practiced it. Your best bet is once you identify a scam, you walk. You just get away from them.
Yeah.
Because I've watched people who are rational, who are thoughtful, who know better, who have gotten sucked in to scams. And the big part of that is you're nice. You want to be polite to someone.
I'm just nice in general, but in the case of the guy,
you're a mother now.
With the case with the guy with the cross, I literally just handed his book back to him and pointed it out to him, and then I walked away. And I looked back, and that's when I saw him looking down at his arm and with the book open and realizing, I've got markings on me. No one taught me about in my own fucking religion. I'm not supposed to do this.
I think for me, one of the ways that I dealt with it, because when you're eating lunch and you're in a nice place and you're sat down, you're eating your lunch, you don't want to have to get up every time somebody. So I think I just continued eating my lunch, but I said, hey man, I just laid it out for him. I was like, I was raised Catholic, so I've been around Catholic people my whole life. My uncle's a priest. My grandmother's devout. I've been to church more times than I can count.
Several of my great aunts were nuns. I'm right there with you.
I'm like, so, and I'm out. I'm out of that church now, and you think you're gonna pull me back into one. I mean, I think you should talk to somebody else, really. It's not, how many years of your life do you have to devote to me? What? Yeah. And that scares people off pretty quick.
So Ian's brother, Ian's family structure is interesting because his father had multiple families, and so didn't father any of them, and so Ian's got a lot of half siblings that he doesn't really know that well. And when his father died, all the siblings had received a portion of the inheritance, and so that's how Ian got in contact with his half siblings. So one of his brothers, during his period of living and stuff like that, was super religious, had a wife and kids, and very active in the church and stuff. And on his own, in his mid-30s, started questioning the church, right? And he's saying, well, why is this? How come this happens this way? Or how come we do this and stuff? And his entire community is like, no, you don't question the church, which just pushed him to question even more. And so he got ostracized from his entire community. His family, his kids don't talk to him because he started questioning, if God even exists. And so he has since identified himself as an atheist. And he's rejected the church, and he's starting to do things in his life that he's never allowed himself to do. Like he's starting to write screenplays and act and, write books and all these creative things that basically when he was being a good church-going citizen, you just didn't do. But now he's like, no, I'm going to try and actually be happy. And rather than try and please God, I'm going to try and please myself.
Isn't that a red flag? That this, to me, this is like a universal red flag. Whether it's religion or anything, the Great Oz, whatever, when you can't ask questions and people get really offended about you even asking questions about stuff, that's like a universal red flag for me.
Yeah,
well, that happens in any organization that wants loyalty and belief. That happens in companies. It happens in political clubs.
Growing up, growing up, we had a Jewish rabbi that lived in my neighborhood, and my parents wanted us to have kind of a religious education. So she got permission from him to take my brother and I to services at the synagogue on Saturday at the temple. And so, so that we could observe Jewish services, take part, and understand a little bit about Judaism. That rabbi was the only one that would answer my questions and try and philosophize with me, and would be the only one that said, I don't know. Let's try and figure that out. And I, to this day, I still respect that rabbi for being willing to question his own religion to try and prove the legitimacy of it. He was willing to question it. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. In the Church of England, I think when I was certainly growing up, things were very open. Everything was open to question, and there wasn't any of this sort of dogma really that you encounter here now.
Well, the Church of England was all about getting rid of dogma.
Replacing it with their own dogma.
It's also so much so that people are a bit like, well, what are we even, worshipping here? I don't know. I mean, I went to a service. I talk about this one a lot. It was like my godchild getting christened, and everyone's sitting around the font, and it was this big church in Oxford. It was very cool. These gargoyles everywhere. I was very taken with. I hadn't been back to England for a while. I was like, oh, all this old stuff. And then the priest gets up and gives us a sermon about, this was Church of England, about we all had to believe in the literal truth of the virgin birth. I was like, oh, okay. So in order to have all this sort of kind of nice community stuff that we're going on here, I have to swallow this huge pill of bullshit and just sort of say, yes, I'm just taking that on faith, and then I can have all this other stuff. I can't do it. Sorry.
I mean, it's the way that people respond to the questions. Like your rabbi, I think, responded appropriately, but when the response is to shut down discussion, when the response is to get defensive, when the response is to get nasty and accuse people of things, to me, that's a big, like, you're covering something up, or you're deathly afraid you can't defend your position.
Or you're being unchristian. You're denying the truth. Jesus is the truth. I'm the way, the truth, and the light. We should be seeking the truth. How do we do that? Well, we use science. So therefore, science and Christianity are 100% compatible. Anyone who says otherwise is being unchristian.
Unchristian. See, that's as soon as someone calls me unchristian, I know there's a problem, and it's not that I'm being unchristian. Well, it might be actually.
Christian nationalism here in the United States actually came from Nazi propaganda during the World War II. And Rachel Maddow has this podcast about it called Ultra, about how that Nazi propaganda perpetuated into the United States, and how it's kind of this, America first,
America first, yes,
Christian,
yes. All these
Christian nationalism kind of stuff. It's all taking talking points from that Nazi propaganda that's almost 100 years old.
I didn't know the swastika is a early Christian symbol.
Yeah, it's also a Tibetan good luck charm.
That's funny.
It's an ancient symbol,
but that might have been a coincidence.
And it's used in sort of Sanskrit. I mean, Hitler just adopts it. That's just branding. He understood. He invented modern marketing. Like Goebbels did largely. Goebbels largely invented modern marketing. I mean, there's a very good documentary on Netflix with Kenneth Branagh reading from Goebbels' diary. And you can be quite sympathetic towards Goebbels in this documentary. He had polio. It's quite similar to my disability. People that are affected by it. And, he saw all the terrible times Germany was in. He really thought Hitler had a great idea. He was a total true believer in Hitler. And, they used all this media. He understood posters, radio, movies, all this stuff. They manipulated it, used it. But then, of course, Goebbels also 100% signs up for the final solution aspect as well. So he's a proper Nazi, a bad guy. But, it is very interesting how basically now we're using all these techniques that he developed. The corporate media is using them all to control.
It's not just from the. It's not just from the Nazi side. I mean, when people think about propaganda, they think about Nazis, but the Americans are developing it as well. They're just not as well known. I used to have a book that's all about that, and the people that they were mentioning on the American side, I had never heard of. They were like, it's not, the Germans get all this credit, but the Americans were right there developing propaganda.
Why We Fight
we had good propaganda too, yes.
the Why We Fight series during World War II of all these propaganda movies, newsreels, cartoons, and everything. Frank Capra was in charge of basically the propaganda department of the United States Army. And so because everybody was into the war effort, the Army and, the military and stuff basically gave him every director, every actor, every musician and stuff, every kind of creative person that had joined the war effort in his little propaganda department, and said, make propaganda, get people to believe in America winning this war. And so you get things like, even post-war movies like The Longest Day were still created by those crews that worked in the Why We Fight series movies, and continued all of those techniques that they developed during that propaganda era of World War II in that movie, The Longest Day. If you've ever seen it, it's like an amazing war movie that's just
I
like,
love
my
The
gosh,
Longest
we're
Day.
heroes.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's pure propaganda. And
yeah. In I think it was the 70s, Project Mockingbird came out and became like public, and there were Senate hearings on it. And but that was the CIA. I think it was the CIA had all these operatives in the mass media, and they never named names. They just admitted to this program exists, and we have operatives. Like, we didn't know if it was like the people that were writing the stories, the people on TV, radio people. And they've never there's been no closure on that. So I'm pretty much 100% convinced that the intelligence agencies have operatives all over today's modern media.
So here's an interesting thing for you. Have you ever heard of propaganda?
Propaganda?
Propaganda is when there's a police event, like say a police involved shooting. And so what the police department does is they have a PR department that, before the news can report on the shooting, release a statement about what happened during the shooting and what has happened, because news offices are overrun and a little lazy and stuff, is they basically just read the police bulletin as the news. Right. So that's only their version of events. And so examples of this is like with George Floyd, when he died and it was recorded on video and stuff. The propaganda that went out about the death was that there was an incident in northern Minneapolis that a gentleman had a heart attack when he was being taken in by police. Right. That's all they released. Right. People wouldn't have known what happened with George Floyd based on just that statement had it not been for the video that the teenager took of him with the knee on his back being suffocated. The propaganda said he suffered a heart attack.
I mean, that to me just seems like PR, like, I mean, it's
propaganda.
It's kind of extreme PR. Yeah, well, what about? I think false flags are really interesting too.
There's always some reason for the powers to be to sort of manipulate the truth, and people don't believe the truth; they believe the story, generally speaking. It's tough. You've got to control a whole society and stop them all going mad and killing each other, which human beings are quite capable of doing if we're not properly managed. That's basically our default what we'll do. Daddy, what did you do in the Great War? I went off and got myself killed because I saw some stupid poster. For that one.
Yeah.
Even as a kid,
you're a parent, you're like, oh my God, what am I to do? I better go off and get myself killed.
Don't forget to buy war bonds from Looney Tunes and Disney. Don't forget to buy war bonds.
Well, not to mention the cartoons that Warner Brothers and Disney did that they don't show anymore because of how they portrayed the Germans and the Japanese.
You can find them on YouTube.
I know.
You can find, like a Eighth Man DVD, I think, is one of the groups that has like all those. And I mean, they include the really bad stuff, like the Looney Tunes blackface and things.
You used to be able to get that at science fiction conventions from the tape bootleggers.
Yeah. I have one of those DVDs of bootlegs. I also have a bootleg of a Song of the South that I keep for several reasons. One, I think it's important that people know that's just as guilty as everyone else as doing bad stuff. And two, I think it's important for Uncle Remus.
I never
stories.
saw it. I never saw that. I did used to really like the Brer Rabbit stories.
The Brer Rabbit stories are Uncle Remus's stories. And Uncle Remus was a real slave that existed in the South. And so these were stories that he would tell the other slaves to entertain them at night. And so these were stories that he told during the time of slavery. And so when slavery was rejected and we had the Civil War and we got rid of it and everything like that, Uncle Remus himself did not write down the stories. It was people that had listened to his stories that wrote down all these stories and then published them into a book. And so the book did really well. It sold really well, and it was considered a great kids book. Which is why Disney, which is why Disney did it. And so how Disney framed the stories of Uncle Remus is that there's Uncle Remus and there's a young white boy from the North visiting his family in the South on a plantation. They don't say that it's after the Civil War, but Disney says it's after the Civil War, but you still see slaves going into the fields in the movie. So it's definitely during the Civil War or prior. And so what it is this little boy is going to Remus's shack and hearing these stories about Brer Rabbit, Brer Bear, Brer Fox, and applying the lessons to the stories to his life at that time. And so that's the framework of the movie. And it's problematic because he's basically going to a slave man's quarters and hearing these stories, and he's a white kid that doesn't have to do anything. There's slaves working in the background and stuff, but at one point Remus gets chastised. He gets punished for telling the boy the stories because blacks aren't supposed to be telling stories. That's the reason he gets punished in the movie.
There's another thing about that movie.
Okay, that's a bit of an indictment of the system, though, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure. I sort of get that. I get why that's wrong, and you can remedy it by putting a black kid in there and having him listen to the stories quite easily.
The other issue was
he got punished for telling the stories, so that telling me that's
here's another thing too. There's a scene in it where Brer Rabbit's jumping down the road, and Brer Fox wants to capture Brer Rabbit so he can eat him. So what he does is he takes tar. And he takes a bunch of stuff. He makes a tar baby. And so when the tar baby doesn't respond to Brer Rabbit, he punches it in the nose, gets caught in the tar. Help, I'm caught in the tar. And then he convinces Brer Fox to throw him in the briar patch because, oh, no, as long as you don't throw me in the briar patch, right? But he was born and bred in briar patch, so that's how he gets away. Well, the tar baby scene, I mean, it's offensive. It's got big lips on it. It's dark, it looks like a minstrel figure of the 1910s, 1920s.
That's a hard thing to get a hold of. I watched that in film school, and they had a super hard time getting a hold of that copy. I remember. I
have a bootleg that's a Japanese bootleg. During all the songs, it has Japanese subtitles.
I don't know how he got this, but one of the problems that I think, if my memory is correct, one of the other problems with that film was how happy all the slaves were.
They're singing songs about, oh boy, we're going out to the fields to work today.
They weren't depicting the reality of slavery, and so that was a problem for people. But
but when Uncle Remus is chastised, his owner literally tells him, your people aren't supposed to be telling stories to each other, right? And he goes, yes, ma'am, I know, right? That I'm sorry, but I love watching. That's offensive shit.
I love watching all this.
Yes, I mean, I understand that's wrong, but I don't.
No, I've seen way more offensive stuff in regular.
That's wrong. Aren't they telling you that it's wrong because you're somebody who's enjoying the stories? So the person who's telling you that it's wrong to tell the story, isn't that giving you the message that is a wrong thing?
And that's why I think it's important to keep the movie. Because if you ignore the movie and pretend it never existed, we can never have this discussion. Right, about
you can make it more sensitively. I mean, I'm looking at some pictures here. I see there is a black kid there as well.
Yeah,
with the white kids. But
I think the real issue is that Disney put this out. That's why it's been so. Because it's so against Disney's.
I saw they had done a Danny Glover version of the story.
They kept Zippity Doodah They kept Brer Rabbit, Brer
Good
Fox, Brer Bear, and Splash Mountain was all those Uncle Remus stories. Only instead of being caught in a tar baby, he was caught in a honey hive. You know, he's caught in a beehive. Oh no, I'm stuck in the honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Disney is still making money off of those ideas, despite the fact that like they pretend that those original ideas never existed.
Splash Mountain into something else?
Yes, they recently changed it. I want to say it's one of the Pixar storylines. I don't know.
They've been phasing those characters out. I saw that as a kid. I can't remember if it was when it came out or because they would replay these things for mothers to take their kids.
Yeah.
And this is the early 70s before I saw The Wicker Man, which is way better. But it was an unmemorable, you know, I saw other kids' films. So it was kind of an unmemorable film. I think they showed it on TV a few times on The Wonderful World of Disney as I was growing up.
The best scene is the only one that they ever show over and over again, which is Uncle Remus singing Zippity Doo-Dah with the little bluebird animated next to him as the world animates around him.
I mean,
and they've shown that
I
over
remember
and
seeing
over.
that scene, that clip as a kid.
Yeah.
I liked it. You know, there's a scene, the song animals. That to me as a child, that was sort of portraying a positive image of a black person.
And again, that's The Wonderful World of Disney that would only show that little bit and then ignore the rest of the movie.
Right. Okay. Well, that's probably good. I mean, Disney is sensitive to these things.
I mean, there's so much. Yeah, Disney's super sensitive to these things. They want to pretend like it didn't happen.
Once it stopped being available, all of my video pals, we all sought it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was everyone, they say, oh, you can't get it. It's rare. You're going to lose it. The fact is there is still such a demand for it that right now you can get it. The thing that's really a threat to getting a copy of Song of the South isn't the fact that Disney doesn't want it out there. It's the fact that streaming is getting rid of DVDs. That's where it's going to get lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still have my
DVD finally, all those DVDs I bought are going to be worth something.
Well,
luckily, it's old enough.
Your DVDs are susceptible to disc rot. This is something I learned from.
But you know,
it's last forever, and I can eat baked beans off them.
Dale, when I was in school, I think it was about 100 years is what they gave that type of media.
Yeah.
So 100 years is pretty good. I mean, if you don't get it off your DVD in 100 years, that's on you.
It's shorter.
It's shorter if it's in heat and moisture. Then the cracks form a little more prominently.
And probably the also the media, you know, like if it's a writable or if it's you know, there's different technologies for that.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to have to jukebox it to a storage device or pay someone to do it. I worked for Apple, and I'm not a bootlegger, but you know, I remember bootlegging starting in '98 when everyone was doing with music, and then it moved on to bootlegging movies.
Are you kidding? Metallica used to have their cassette tapes with one side blank. So that you could copy music onto that side, and they used to have like I have one of the cassette tapes with the thing in it that's like copy music on this side, spread the word. You know,
is that really Metallica though?
The people Metallica did that.
The people that sued the fans with Napster.
Metallica. Yes.
Wow.
That's why it was
too lazy
so.
to do anything with cassettes.
Yeah, that's why it was so problematic for them when they were like Napster bad. Don't use Napster, because it's like, dude, you used to have bootleg this tape written on your cassette tapes. You know, when you bought the cassette tapes, I still have several Metallica tapes that say bootleg this tape.
It's
you know, and it had instructions about putting the two tapes there and make sure you press play and record and play at the same time. Like it used to have instructions in the tape thing about how to bootleg it.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing I want more than I want Song of the South is I want an original Star Wars.
Well, this has all been very entertaining, Dale. Now we know what to get Dale for Christmas. That's a good note to end on.
Do you want the original Laserdisc version?
Hi to Paul,
With
my
the
friend
original
Paul
me-
Griffiths
with the
there.
original
He
special
makes on his
effects.
CDs.
I don't have
Paul,
the
you should come
Laserdisc
on as a
player.
guest on the show. When we start having some more guests,
Yeah.
I'm going to get you
Oh
on as
wait,
a
I didn't
guest.
say hello to our viewer. Hello,
Yeah,
Paul
hi, Paul.
Griffith.
Yeah, we've had a couple of viewers today. It's been good. It's sort of like a holiday show. It was supposed to be the great art versus AI draw off.
We talked
I
about
know,
Google.
That didn't happen because AI artists are a bunch of chicken shit pussies, and I don't care what you say.
Man.
Don't fight me. Don't fight me.
Chuck, I took some screen captures of some of the stuff that people said, and I was
Please,
debating whether or not I should send them to you because they're pretty nasty.
I don't need to say it. I already saw it all
Okay.
when I initiated this challenge.
Yeah. Again,
You
like
know, it was precisely because I was dealing with some stupid trolls that
Yeah.
I initiated
yeah.
the challenge.
The-
The challenge remains open. Anybody who wants an artist against a real artist, you're welcome to try.
The Mid-Journey Reddit, I posted the challenge to as well, and it was removed by the admins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no one wants to take your challenge, dude.
What kind of admins are those?
Oh, sick in bed in
I know.
Tahoe.
I'm sorry you're sick. I hope you're better for Christmas.
In Tahoe? Which side on
yeah,
Tahoe?
distraction
Which side?
is the name of the game.
The bad
All right.
side or the good side?
Yes. Well, I don't know. We'll be back again next week, next Wednesday, I suppose. With that,
After
we'll have a
Christmas.
proper holiday show next week.
Okay.
We'll do a festive holiday show.
We should do a New Year's show next week because this is the one before the holiday. Next
Southway.
time's
Is
gonna be.
that the Nevada
Yeah.
side or the California side?
I think that's California.
Okay. Nevada
Yeah.
side's
Well, yeah, it'll be
Weird.
we'll be between Christmas and the New Year next week. So you know. that's
Any
when
New
the
Year's
TV times will be
resolutions?
next in our holiday show.
lose weight, get healthy.
Yeah, I've
Oh, yeah,
lost
we can
20
talk about our
pounds since last year.
resolutions. Yes.
Hate you.
Mine is going to be to draw more on the show and have more guests. And,
Yeah, we need guests.
I've got a long list. Do my exercises, finish these other books I've got to do, start drawing Earth Space every day, start doing Instagirls every day. I need to like bifurcate myself. I'm sort of, a while ago I needed 2 me's. Now I need like 3 or 4 me's.
Well, how often do you update Earth Space?
I'm not at all right now. I don't know. I mean, I want to do it as a daily stretch.
So you're on hiatus right now. Okay.
Well,
That's a nice word.
I mean,
to
I'm
say
not
he isn't
totally
doing
on
it.
hiatus. I mean, I'm just doing different things. I'm doing some maps for Goodman Games.
Oh,
Yay.
It's going to be a really good one. Hard to see, but yeah.
I'm doing this.
I've got
I'm doing
I've got a
this.
Mance,
Oh,
and Amber's working
doing
on
nothing.
flying machine.
Is that your main character who's flying the ship? I could see
Yeah.
there's like a black cat.
Yeah,
He's
it's
the
a
pilot.
black tuxedo cat as the main character, and that's Captain T. And this is his ship. This is the dirigible, and then this is if you can kind of see it. This is the town of Trade Post. If I do this, you can kind of see it. This is the town of Trade Post where he's coming in and he's going to run into the stowaway, and you're going to find out how scoundrel he is, and
Amber,
then he escapes.
true story. I had a black tuxedo cat, lived in Sunnyvale. This is back when Moffett Field had their Fuji blimp, and it would fly over, and my tuxedo cat, when he saw it, would just stop in his tracks and stare at it for an hour until it would fly out of sight. He loved that blimp.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? What is it?
Cats
I
love
can't reach it. It's so
Tuxedo
far.
cats like blimps.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to shut up because I think
Yeah.
some of us have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, it's time for the theme music. All right, goodbye. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you. Chris,
Happy holidays.
Chris Adele, I don't know if you want to get together for a movie or something over the holidays.
Start
I
up.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
Maybe we'll talk after the show. But I'm going to show the theme music now.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna pee.
Here's a theme song for Chuck Whelan Showy. He asked me to write one, but I stole from David Bowie. Here's a theme song. Chuck Whelan is the best. We have lots of hosts, but we're running out of gas. Will you be our guest on? Will you be our guest on? Be on the Chuck Whelan Show. Whoa, 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 whoa.
If you're gonna have a show, you